do you need?
Sure. Well, so with respect to the food pantry, it's a good example. I went online. The American Pregnancy Association has a list of financial resources that are available to pregnant mothers to better inform them about the resources that might be available. The first item on their list is WIC, Women, Infants, and Children Supplemental Fund Program, right? You're familiar with WIC,
Yes.
of course, right? The Special Supplemental Nutrition Program for Women, Infants, and Children. It's the #1 resource on this website that I, went on. And my understanding is that House Republicans, 190 of them in this Congress, voted to rescind $500 million in WIC funding. You recall that vote back in September?
Not in particular the numbers or anything about the vote.
Well, I can represent to you that in September of last year, 190 House Republicans voted to rescind $500 million in WIC funding, and that included you as well. The next item on the list here is pregnancy Medicaid is listed as one of the financial resources. Of course, most House Republicans oppose the expansion of Medicaid. I take it you do as well. Is that a fair assessment?
That's a fair assessment, but I have no idea what that has to do with this bill.
Well,
this is a very simple bill to help students. It's a very pro-student.
Here's what I'll suggest to you, Madam Chair. This is why it matters. The American Pregnancy Association lists as financial resources. One of those resources available to pregnant women is pregnancy Medicaid, so that they can access health care for them and for their child. House Republicans, including yourself, oppose expanding Medicaid for pregnant mothers in a variety of different states across the country. That's why it's relevant. And as you can see, where I'm struggling is understanding what information you are compelling these institutions of higher education to actually provide. To the extent that it's any of these resources, they're all resources that House Republicans seem intent on cutting. And those are just a few. I mean, the next one on here is temporary assistance for needy families, TANF. Again, a program that House Republicans have voted to decrease over the course of this Congress. So I guess what I'm getting at, and maybe you can help me understand this, is if the goal here is to provide, as the bill says, a list of resources to assist pregnant mothers, and if we know those resources, pregnancy Medicaid, TANF, WIC, a variety of others, are so critically important, why do House Republicans seem so intent on cutting them all? That's really my question.
Again, you're creating a straw dog here.
Easily.
This bill,
what was that?
This bill is pro-student. Surely members on both sides of the aisle want to support
carry
women
babies
becoming
to
mothers
term,
and
Virginia.
college graduates. There are resources now. Whether or not we oppose some of those resources being funded by taxpayers at the federal level is irrelevant to this
You don't
discussion.
fund childcare for
They
students now,
exist.
Virginia.
Since they exist,
So the plan
then
is
the student
You idiot.
should know about them and take advantage of them.
Oh,
It's
shut
simple as that. You guys are throwing out
You
straw
guys.
dogs constantly about this bill.
Madam
Excuse
Chair,
me.
I would simply say, it seems to me the plan is
Hi, Paulina.
to mandate the provision of a list of resources, of programs that
That old
Republicans
lady
are
needs
trying
to
to dismantle
fucking
in Washington. I
rapture
don't really
right there.
understand the
I'm
utility
sorry, not sorry.
in
I'm old too.
compelling the production of a list that says, hey, supplemental nutrition assistance program resources are available to you, unless Republicans have a majority in the Congress, in which case it's not worth much more than the piece of paper that this bill apparently is compelling the production of. But again, I guess what I
No,
would say, Madam Chair, and
it's
with all
gross.
respect, I would be far more interested, I think, in debating and moving forward a bill
Horrid
that
person.
funds these resources, that funds these critical programs, TANF, WIC, SNAP, expanding Medicaid, to ensure that pregnant mothers have those resources, as opposed to passing a bill that mandates the creation of a list that lists them out. Ranking Member Scott, I know,
Well,
I want to give you an
I'd
opportunity.
like to respond to
Sure, of
that.
course.
We are the Education Committee. We're dealing with students. We're
You?
not the Appropriations Committee. That's Mr. Cole and other folks. So
Suck my
perhaps,
dick,
since
Virginia.
Mr. Cole's here, he can hear you say what you want funded. What should be funded is not in our purview, but these things already exist. And so we just want to make sure that students are aware of them. And we want the students to be taken care of. We want their babies to be taken care of. We want them to complete their college education. And so whatever exists, they should have access to it. And if they don't
Yeah,
already
nobody
know
disagrees
about
with
it, we
that.
want the school to tell them. Very simple bill, very pro-student, not anti anything.
Yeah,
We're
it's
not here to
anti-choice.
speak against WIC
Pushing an
or any of
agenda.
those things. That's a different subject. Thank you.
I hear you, Madam Chair, and I hope the appropriators hear us as well. I'm not on the Appropriations Committee, but the only caveat I suppose I would add is that you keep on referencing these programs existing. They exist for now. House Republicans have worked very hard to cut them to the bone over the last 14 months. So, the fact that you'd like to provide a list of resources around WIC or SNAP or TANF to pregnant mothers, while the House Republican majority seeks to defund all of these programs,
Hi.
just seems a bit
Yay.
disconnected, in my view, from
Hi, basket
the
packet.
views
How
and
are
the
you?
values and the wishes of the American people. But Ranking Member Scott, I want to give you an opportunity to.
Thank you, and I think your comments
Getting in
highlight
the
a real
Thursday.
shortcoming of the legislation that
Oh,
gives
be careful with the
partial
heaters.
information to begin with. Doesn't
That's
give
good,
any
easily. I'm so
information
sorry. That's
on
uncomfortable, and I hope everybody's safe.
resources if you experience a miscarriage, if you're going to choose to terminate the pregnancy for any reason. Just gives you partial information, and then in terms of resources, it doesn't give you anything. So that's, if you are trying to make an informed decision, you can't make an informed decision if you're only hearing one side. I would also say to the gentlelady from Pennsylvania, when you talked about the allegations, we did ask for a documentation for the findings, and the sponsor of one of the major parts of that finding was unable to provide documentation.
Oh,
I
excellent.
thank the Ranking Member. I thank the Chair, and I yield the balance of my time.
Thank you. Gentlelady from New Mexico is
just
recognized for any
made,
questions she might have for the panel.
Homemade
Thank you,
chicken
Mr. Chair.
dumplings. It was really good. It was really good.
Madam Chairwoman, both today and at the hearing, there is a statement that this is about providing information to pregnant women to make sure that they can make informed decisions. As my colleague from Pennsylvania pointed out, the findings of this bill tell you what it is about. This is a bill to attack the ability of college women to make informed decisions and to make decisions about whether or not they want to have an abortion and whether or not, if they choose to carry the pregnancies, how to do it and how to do it in a way that makes it healthy for themselves and for their children, especially because we know
Ooh.
that college mothers
You know
have
how
a
to
hard
do
time,
this. You
that
know how to do
they,
this easily.
go hungry
done.
more often than their counterparts who aren't mothers, who don't carry children to term. And so we need to give them the kind of resources that they deserve. But it's really, once again, extreme Republicans just want to keep women in the dark. That's what this bill tells me, because they don't really want to know what's available to them. In committee markup, Representative Jayapal submitted an amendment to provide pregnant students with information about the kinds of essential programs we're talking about so that their babies can stay healthy, like Medicaid, like SNAP, like women, infant, and children. So this would have been an amendment which, if we care about providing women with information, would have been, I would have thought, supported by Republicans. Chairwoman Fox, tell me, how many Republicans voted for Representative Jayapal's amendment?
Oh, I don't believe any did.
So there were 0 Republicans who cared about providing pregnant college women with information they need to keep their babies healthy, to keep themselves healthy while they're pregnant.
I'm sorry.
They voted against that. Every single one voted against that amendment. There was another amendment. Representative Stevens submitted an amendment to make sure that pregnant students would have information about miscarriages, because we know that 10 to 20% of pregnancies result in miscarriages. She had an impassioned speech about the importance of making sure that pregnant college women knew about this so that they could save their own lives if necessary. Because we keep reading about the stories of women who are pregnant in states like Texas and across this country who cannot get the care they need because of the draconian laws. And so miscarriages are becoming a source of potential death for women. So how many Republicans voted for Representative Stevens' amendment, Chairwoman?
My memory is none. I
Not a
believe.
single one. So this isn't about making sure that women have information, because if it were to have full information, they'd have full information, and Republicans have said no. And these provisions aren't just smart, they're good public health policy decisions. We should be about in Congress saying, what is good for public health? How do we do that? How do we make sure that women have full access to information? And I want to keep Congress.
Take a drink.
I want to keep Congress out of the doctor's office when women are making decisions. I want to keep Congress out of the doctor's office, whether you're a woman in rural America, in urban America, suburban America, or on a college campus, because women deserve to be making these decisions with full information, with conversations with their own faith, their own doctrine, their own loved ones. And we should not be dictating that they follow what's in this bill. And for that, I would urge my colleagues to vote against this. I don't know if you want to add anything, Ranking Member?
I think you've said it very well.
Okay, thank you. With that, I yield
May,
back.
may I speak on that?
I
General
love her
Lady
so
Reagan.
much.
This bill, contrary to my colleague saying keeps women in the dark, does everything we can to help students, or female
Have
students
babies.
who find themselves pregnant and who want to carry their baby to term. This is not at all about any of the issues that our colleagues are talking about.
Really?
What we assume is all of the things that are all the resources will be listed. We did not see a need to try to list certain resources that are available.
Oh,
We want the
which ones did you
schools to
leave off,
assume what to
Virginia?
list. This is a very pro-student bill. It says absolutely nothing about abortion. It's
I know, that's
totally
one of the issues,
mischaracterized
actually.
by our colleagues on the other side of the aisle. We assume again that everybody
Yeah,
wants
we do.
pregnant women,
We can figure this out.
pregnant students to have the best information that
Well, they are
can
women.
to be successful and to carry their babies successfully.
How can that
It's
guy just sit
impossible
there
to
and not like
understand
backhand
the
her right in the
characterization
center of
this
the
piece
face?
legislation. I yield back.
Thank you very much. The gentleman from Texas was asked recognition for a make a comment.
Mr. Chairman, if I could, for a point of clarification, Medicaid created in 1965, a shared federal-state program, had within it several populations that were going to be covered: blind, age disabled, feeble elderly, pregnant women, and children under a certain income level. That was the original, I refer to it oftentimes as the legacy population in Medicaid. When the Affordable Care Act passed, Medicaid was vastly expanded to include childless, non-working adults. The Supreme Court said states can't be coerced into expanding Medicaid, so some states did, some states did not. But in states that did
Doesn't that
not,
seem
you
dumb?
still have coverage as a pregnant individual, a pregnant woman, because that was the original compact. In the state of Texas, it's 57% federal share, 43% state share. That is the law
Of
that had
what?
existed prior to the Affordable Care Act. And whether
Oh,
or
I-
not, irrespective of Medicaid expansion, that coverage is available to pregnant women. What I do need to add is, in the past couple of years, the Committee on Energy and Commerce has done a lot of work on this in an effort to deal with problems that occur after childbirth. It was decided that a longer period of coverage after delivery should be available to states. And so a state plan option was made available and passed into law that states can extend coverage to a full year after delivery, which I think is a good idea. But it was not an expansion of Medicaid. It was taking care of the original population in the way it was supposed to be taken care of. And I just wanted to make that clarification,
Oh,
Mr.
wow.
Chairman, because sometimes these things get conflated, and I'll yield back.
Thank you very much. Are there any additional questions or comments?
Factual.
Mr. Chairman?
The gentlelady is recognized.
Thank you. And the chairwoman noted that this bill said nothing about abortion. I would just point out for the record that on page 3, line 11, there is a reference to abortion. On line 12, there is a reference to abortion. On line 20, there is a reference to abortion. On line 4, on page 4, line 1, there's a reference to abortion. On page 4, line 4, there's a reference to abortion. On page 4, line 10, there is a reference to abortion. This bill is very much about abortion. And with that, I yield back. Thank you.
Ooh, she looked right
Very
at her.
much. I want to thank both of our witnesses
Yeah.
for their testimony today. And
Ooh.
gentlelady and gentlemen are excused.
Get the hell out of here, you crazy kids. All right, so what, are you guys leaving now? Wait. So, excuse me. I didn't plan on going live today at this point, but I saw that this was happening, and it's always
I'd
a good
like to welcome
opportunity
our
to
second panel,
smack
Representative
Virginia Fox.
Fishbach. You can
Let's see what they're
deliver
talking about.
either
But then
from your
also,
chair or
Dumpy is talking
that would be
in
fine.
New Hampshire, which,
From the
you
Committee
know,
on Ways and
might
Means
just,
and
guilty,
Representative Fishbach, I
guilty
welcome your
displeasure.
testimony.
Do have a share and sit down, Mr. Fishbach. We want to hear your testimony. So yeah, I don't know how interesting.
This is my first time before the Rules
Oh,
Committee,
Ms.
so
Fishbach.
be
I'm
kind.
sorry. Oh, good luck with that. Good luck. Oh, there's only
Gentlelady's
Democrats there.
recognized for testimony.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Today, we're considering the Supporting Pregnant and Parenting Women and Families Act, which would block the Biden administration rule that attempts to divert resources away from pregnancy resource centers that provide life-saving and life-affirming services and resources
Okay,
to
we're not
pregnant
gonna be
women and
nice
their
to you.
families.
No.
I am proud to have introduced this legislation along with my Ways and Means colleague, Representative Claudia Tenney from New York, who couldn't be here because she is her flight is delayed, and Representative Chris Smith from New Jersey.
Who
In
also has
October of last
nothing
year, the
to say
Department of
about
Health
this
and Human
subject.
Services published a proposed rule that could prohibit states from funding pregnancy resource centers through the Temporary Assistance for Needy Families, or TANF, the block grant program, excuse me. If this rule takes effect, women in America will have fewer alternatives to abortion and less access to maternal care. The Supporting Pregnant
Wait,
and
what?
Parenting Women and Families Act protects
confused.
pregnant women from women's access to maternal care by prohibiting HHS from finalizing, implementing, or enforcing the proposed rule as it relates to placing restrictions on the state use of TANF dollars for pregnancy resource centers. Pregnancy resource centers provide vital resources used by pregnant and parenting women every day to support the health and
runs
pregnancy of their child. Nothing in the bipartisan law that created TANF provides the Biden administration the authority to regulate TANF in this manner and unfairly single out and target these centers. Pregnancy resource centers
But are
provide
they,
everything from diapers, food, baby clothes, transportation, parenting classes,
are they like
relationship education, and prenatal vitamins.
factories?
They provide both emotional support and tangible benefits and materials to women with unplanned pregnancies that clearly
I
meet
want
the
to see a
purposes
study on
of
that.
TANF to
I want
provide
to see a
assistance
study
to
on
needy
the
families and
pregnancy
reduce dependence
resource
on government
centers.
assistance.
Which sounds
Flexibility
very
for
handy.
states to use TANF dollars is at the heart of the bipartisan law that created the block grant in 1996. In fact, the primary goal of the legislation was to increase
beaker.
the flexibility of states, which is exactly why Congress
Move your
explicitly
flask.
prohibited federal bureaucrats from telling states
Move
how
your
and where
gin,
to spend
lady.
these funds. The Biden administration is attempting to sidestep Congress with the proposed rule, which is a clear violation of the law, while furthering their agenda to
I'm right.
mischaracterize and
Karen.
spread false information of the goals and purpose of pregnancy resource centers.
Take that
No one
vodka
says
Red Bull off the
TANF
table.
is perfect. but the role of improving the
Trying to think of, like,
program
the most
lies with
innocuous thing.
Congress. Not only is the
Get
Biden
that,
administration
get that pen of
ignoring the law,
grasshoppers off
but in the
that table,
process, they
lady,
are
eh?
also penalizing vulnerable women trying
From
to
the
protect
18th
their own
fucking
health
century.
and the health of their children. Democrats claim to support a woman's right to choose their own health care. But at this moment, the Biden administration is preparing to make it harder for moms to choose life for their unborn child, as well as how they will take care of themselves and their babies. If this rule takes effect, pregnant women in America will have fewer alternatives to abortion and less access to vital services and support. Congress must send a clear message that we will not tolerate federal bureaucrats ignoring the letter of the law, and we will stand up and support women. Women should not be denied access to these critical centers for the sake of a political agenda. I hope that each one of my colleagues will support
Yeah,
this
that's what I want to
legislation
see. I
to
want to
stop
see
the
what
Biden
the
administration's
satisfaction rate
attack
is with women who
on
have gone
pregnant and
through
parenting
a
mothers and their families. And thank you,
birthing
Mr. Chairman and
program.
members.
Thank you very
Forced
much.
birthing.
Obviously, the weather's made travel difficult. I'm recognizing my friend from Pennsylvania, Ms. Scanlon, for any, I
Yeah,
think, to read
she
into
got
the
in
record
here.
a statement by Representative Pugh, who obviously had travel difficulties in getting here today as well.
Yes, not everyone's as hardy as the members of the Rules Committee, but
There you go.
travel has certainly been difficult for people. My colleague, Representative Chu, couldn't be here, so she has asked me to present her remarks on 6918. Mr.
That must
Chairman
be a
and
fun,
Ranking
like,
Member
Democrat
McGovern, I'm
committee to be
dismayed that
on.
today
It's
the
like cool
Rules Committee
people.
meets not to consider serious legislation that will improve the lives of Americans, but to consider a bill merely intended to score political points with attendees at this week's anti-abortion rally here in Washington. This
Mm.
partisan Republican bill, H.R.
Oh, good. A huge
6918,
waste of
would
taxpayer
divert
money.
funds from needy
Fantastic.
children and families to
Meaningless.
anti-abortion centers. These so-called crisis pregnancy centers masquerade as healthcare facilities, usually providing misleading or inaccurate medical information in order to prevent women from seeking abortions. Specifically, the bill would block the Biden administration from monitoring state spending of temporary assistance for needy families, or TANF dollars,
Seriously,
for
easily.
so-called crisis pregnancy centers. In effect, it would permanently exempt from regulation and oversight state expenditure of federal TANF dollars on these centers. Everyone deserves access to accurate information when making healthcare decisions. Anti-abortion centers are not legitimate healthcare providers. Rather, they are organizations attempting to coerce pregnant people seeking abortions into carrying pregnancies to term using manipulation and
Yep.
misinformation.
Yep.
They often disguise themselves as genuine health centers, even going so far as to dress their staff in scrubs or white coats
Oh my
to
God.
mimic medical professionals. Because these anti-abortion centers are not actual medical facilities, they're not covered
They
by the
shouldn't
privacy and
exist.
security rules of HIPAA, and therefore their staff can say whatever they want without consequence. So these centers pose as medical facilities, spread misinformation about abortion, and then face little, if any, consequences for
Are
doing
they
so.
regulated?
This has profound impact for the patients that find
Wait
their
a
way to
minute.
these centers,
I'm
believing
confused.
falsely that their staff are real medical professionals.
I mean, are they treated
In
like
Iowa,
counseling?
an OBGYN has
I'm
seen
very
patients who
confused.
visited these centers and were told that using contraceptives was the same as having an abortion, that using birth control could give them cancer and would damage their overall health. In Massachusetts, one of these centers failed to correctly diagnose an ectopic pregnancy because the staff member conducting her ultrasound wasn't qualified to be conducting that test. The woman later required emergency surgery. And in my home state, this is from Rep. Chu of California, our Attorney General has sued one operator of these centers for their false claims of offering so-called abortion reversal, which is a procedure that not only does not exist, but attempts to implement it can cause life-threatening
Oh
hemorrhaging
my
in women. A recent study of 607 anti-abortion centers across 9 states, covering almost 2/3 of these anti-abortion centers, found that they, quote, promoted patently false and/or biased medical claims about pregnancy,
Let me find
abortion,
that study.
contraceptive, and
What year
reproductive
did she
healthcare
say that study
providers,
was?
unquote. Fewer than half reported having a licensed medical professional on staff. During our markup last week, Democrats offered a series of amendments to allow funding to these centers if they could be demonstrated to provide medically accurate information, not harm women's health or economic futures, and did not mislead women as to their purpose or use coercion to get them to visit them. Committee Republicans rejected all of those amendments, making clear that their purpose is coercive propaganda, not support for pregnant women. If you want to support parents, Democrats on the Ways and Means Committee would welcome the support for things like the enhanced and increased child tax credit, paid family and medical leave, and making
I'm
childcare
going to give you a
affordable for
link to
working
that.
families.
There's an
Instead,
NIH
we are
study. I don't
debating
know
a
if
bill
that's
that
the one
has
she's
no
talking
hope of
about.
becoming law, that is not a serious attempt to help families, and that is merely an attempt to appease a far-right fringe group in town for its annual conference. In fact, this bill is to serious pro-family legislation what so-called crisis pregnancy centers are to actual responsible medical care, a sham masquerading as something helpful. The best we can do to support pregnant women and families today is to reject this legislation. With that, I yield the balance of Ms. Chu's time.
Okay.
I thank the gentlelady for reading our colleague's statement into the record. I have no questions for our witnesses. I'll go next to my friend, Dr. Burgess.
No questions, Chairman. I want to thank both our witnesses, both in abstention and in front of us. I have had the opportunity to visit pregnancy centers in my district. I found them to be staffed by very compassionate people. They provide access to information about things like formula, diapers, and what other resources are available in the community. So I think they are important, and a little bit mystified as to why the administration has singled them out for criticism, but thank you to our colleague, Ms. Fishbach, for bringing this, and look forward to voting for it on the floor tomorrow.
Thank you. Gentleman from Massachusetts recognized for any questions he may have.
Yeah, let me say the Ms. Chu referenced in her testimony a Massachusetts pregnancy center. That happens to be in my district, not too far from my district office in Worcester. And it is, and the reason why there's concern is because somebody almost died because the people there are not medically qualified to understand all that all that you need to understand for a woman to be able to have a safe pregnancy. And a complaint was filed against that center, basically saying they engage in deceptive advertising aiming to persuade women to forego abortions rather than providing them with the range of medically appropriate options. And the plaintiff, who was a Worcester resident, one of my constituents,
Worcester.
alleges that the so-called nurse who performed the ultrasound scan at the center did not understand sufficient medical measures to ensure the pregnancy was viable. An ectopic pregnancy was what she was dealing with, occurs when a fertilized egg implants and grows outside of the uterus, most often in the fallopian tube. Such pregnancies are usually non-viable and they can be life-threatening. And the suit alleges that the woman's fallopian tube ruptured about a month after the ultrasound scan, causing massive internal bleeding and necessitating emergency surgery. And my constituent's not saying that the nurse or whoever it was intentionally misled her. Instead, they're saying that the staffer missed the ectopic pregnancy because she wasn't qualified to do this. So if we're talking about protecting viable pregnancies and we're talking about protecting the mother, we need to make sure that they're going to places that are properly equipped and staffed to do what is best.
Oh, hi,
for the mother.
Paul.
In this case, that did not happen.
This is the Rules Committee in the House, and what they do is their colleagues on bills that are going to be presented on the floor, and then they either recommend them, I guess, for being voted on by the entire House or whatever. So basically, they're the ones who come up, and a lot of them talk about
I
like,
find to be really
oh,
disturbing.
like a myriad
So
of myriad
I
things.
will
You know, like
oppose
this one's
bill,
talking about a bill that will give
I mean,
TANF money,
you know,
social services money to
this
crisis
obsession
pregnancy centers,
with
which are those religiously or non-religious, but
trying
just
to roll back
Christo-fascist
women's
kind of
rights when it comes
based
to access to abortion or
centers that
proper
try and
healthcare guidance
deter
is something
abortions
I just don't quite understand. But in
and
any event, I think the
are
only thing is that
problematic.
this will go
And I just
nowhere,
shared
even if it
an
passes the
NIH
House. But
study that one of the
case that Ms.
Democrats
Chu
referred to
happened to be in my district.
as to one
Anyway.
as to the
Thank you.
issues with
Gentlelady from
crisis pregnancy
Pennsylvania is
centers
recognized for any
as
questions
a
you
whole.
may have.
I don't really have any questions. I think we should all be able to agree on the importance of supporting maternal and infant care, particularly given the shocking rate of maternal mortality in this country, and particularly for women of color. But that's not what this bill does. This bill tries to block federal
these are the people who
regulation of
give
these
me
pregnancy centers,
the
despite the
basic amount of
growing
faith.
body of evidence that many of these centers
Oops, in the
are
institution.
deceiving people about whether or not they're actually providing health care. And they're misusing, diverting, and actually defrauding
I understand
federal
politics is
taxpayers of dollars
problematic,
that are sent to these places
terrible,
in multiple states,
not
including
focused.
Pennsylvania and Minnesota, that are
Awesome.
not supporting the goals of TANF. So this is almost an oversight function that the federal government has been responding to these reports, which are
right.
growing in number, about the misuse
right.
of federal dollars in these pregnancy crisis centers, and trying to make sure
For
that
so
those
many
dollars are
women
only spent for the
and
purpose.
birthing
If we were
people,
just talking about diapers and formula,
Planned
we wouldn't-
Parenthood is really,
the
for some, the only option.
Department of Human Services would not have issued this regulation. What we're talking about is misuse of federal dollars with deceptive, quote, medical, unquote, practices, and actually diversion of dollars. In Pennsylvania, there's been a major contract that's been terminated because it turned out that they were taking dollars that had flowed from the federal government through Pennsylvania and diverting them to other places, and not actually using them to provide services to mothers and children, but for overhead in other states. So I think it's an appropriate function for the federal government. I think it's a mistake to try to block the administration from trying to make sure that these dollars are spent in the way that Congress intended. And I yield back.
Gentleman from Colorado is recognized for any questions he may have. And gentlelady from New Mexico is recognized for any questions she may have.
Thank you,
Thank
Gal.
you, and thank you, Representative Scanlon, for reading the statement, and especially pointing out that the reason we're having these bills when we should be working on funding our government is because there's a rally going on. So this is such a political stunt, and more political theater attacking abortion. And to the state,
When is the
to the
March
statement
for, is it
that
March for Life or
these
something that's
crisis
happening?
pregnancy centers are just providing information. Mr. Chairman, I would ask unanimous consent to enter into the record an issue brief about crisis pregnancy
Oh yeah, on
centers
January 20th.
from the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists.
Without objection.
So this issue's brief actually describes how these
Oh, that's gonna be
centers
annoying.
are famous and actually use inaccurate information and end up doing things like what we heard about that puts women's lives at risk. One of the misleading practices that these centers do is they assert false risks of abortion. They say there are links between abortion and breast cancer, infertility, mental illness, and preterm birth. They have a long list of the misinformation that they provide, including saying there are legal limits to abortion when there are not. They cause delays in legitimate health care by delaying when women can actually get access to true health care. The doctors that I talked about earlier, that women should be able to consult without interference by politicians, that when you delay that, you can delay assessing difficulties of pregnancy, whether you choose to keep a pregnancy, such as if you're diabetic or other things, or choosing to terminate the pregnancy so that you don't go beyond limits, as states are now imposing 6-week limits, 4-week limits, 8-week limits, whatever limits they're doing. And by delaying that, you are actually delaying a woman's choice. And so I think that, it is wise for us to listen to the American College of Obstetricians and Gynecologists. They are the experts in this realm. And so I, would enter that into the record. I also am very curious, as I read through the record of how this moved through a committee, that we actually had Representative Del Bene submitting an amendment that said pregnancy centers cannot provide medically inaccurate information, just holding them to that standard. That's not such a high standard, like be accurate. And Republicans voted that amendment down. So once again, we keep seeing Republicans voting down amendments to try to make these bills actually scientific based. And Republicans keep saying no. And I think this should tell the American public, Republicans do not want our women to have accurate medical information about their healthcare choices, period. We need to hold them accountable, and we say that's not acceptable. We will make our decisions, and we will make those decisions, and we'll make sure they are heard at the ballot boxes, which is what we have seen over and over again every time this issue of reproductive freedom, of healthcare, and women being able to have the freedom to make their own healthcare decisions in
Yep.
conversation with their own faith, whatever that faith may be,
204
that women are
million?
speaking loudly. And I hope
There's a
they
graph in
keep
the AP
speaking
article.
loudly
Okay,
so that politicians, like those who have brought this bill, will stay out of their doctor's office. And with that, I yield back. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
The gentlelady is recognized to respond.
Mr. Chair, thank you. It comes from the fact that the Biden administration chose to target these life-affirming centers. The pregnancy care centers were receiving TANF funds, so it's not diverting, it's not adding them. This TANF dollars going to those pregnancy care centers is existing, and the Biden administration chose to go after them. What they are doing is limiting state flexibility, because the states have the flexibility right now to choose or to not to send it where they want. That is the purpose of the TANF, the way that the TANF bill was written, the program was put together. Many of the crisis pregnancy centers adhere to national standards. They are part of a national network. They adhere to standards and
national
ethics.
standards.
And
How
I have been
hurt,
to a pregnancy care center, just
right?
like
You have
Dr.
counties in
Burgess
the
has
U.S. that
been.
have zero medical
And
clinics and
what you
hospitals.
see
Yep.
is you see caring, compassionate
There's
people who are there
definitely
to care for the
some
mother
crises.
and the child during pregnancy and after pregnancy. And many, we had stories in during the Ways and Means markup on this bill that talked about, many years of being supported by these pregnancy care centers and children that grew up. And I believe it was Dr. Westrup's who his wife worked at a crisis pregnancy center or volunteered at a crisis pregnancy center. This is not what the other side wants to make it out to be. These are good places, helpful places.
Okay,
They
all
care
righty.
for the mother
Okay,
and
girly.
the child. And that's why you hear about, the fundraising that they do to add to the TANF dollars. So this is actually a value for us because they do a lot of private fundraising. They do a lot of fundraising for
let's
baby
stop
items so
this.
that
Stop this.
so that they can
Stop
send home with the mother and the baby,
Stop it.
cribs, diapers, whatever it may be. And so it's not these pregnancy care centers are not what the other side is trying to make
They
them
are.
out to be.
They are,
Thank you,
honey.
Mr.
There's a whole
Thank you
study
very
about them.
much. Thank you for appearing before us today. Gentlelady's excused, and we hope she returns to the dais.
We're dumb.
I'd like to welcome our third panel, Representative Nathaniel Moran and Ranking Member Gerald Nadler from the Committee on the Judiciary.
Wonder if I can- I'm gonna try something really sneaky here. Oops.
Thank you very much. Representative Moran, you're recognized for your opening statement.
No, can't do it.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Chairman, I'm here on
Right?
HRES
There,
957
unless you're
denouncing the
gonna
Biden
buy me
administration's
dinner or
open border
kiss
policies.
me sweetly.
I want to thank you for allowing me the opportunity to be in front of the committee. President Biden's own actions tell us that he has
Yeah.
never been a fan of a secure
Um,
U.S. border. During
it
the
will
2020
be a
election, then candidate
disaster.
Biden's campaign promises included rolling back President Trump's successful border security policies, restarting catch and release, and offering
Oh wait, what are
amnesty
we
to
doing now?
illegal
Oh, okay.
aliens in the
Whoops.
United States. Unfortunately, he
Different
has made good on these
dehumanization.
promises. Within a few days of taking office, President Biden halted border walls construction, terminated the Remain in Mexico program, and reversed policies that successfully cut down
What a
on
butt.
frivolous asylum claims, and systematically dismantled
did?
immigration enforcement.
That's true.
Right away, House
Awesome.
Republicans started sounding the alarm that reversing the Trump administration policies would lead to a flood of illegal aliens on the southwest
Mhm.
border. And we weren't the only ones sounding the alarm. In fact, the U.S. Border Patrol had warned the Biden transition team that reversing these policies would be seen as a sign that our
Okay.
border was open.
Okay.
The Biden administration
sir.
did it anyway, and today we know House Republicans and the Border Patrol were right. The text of my proposed House resolution is simple and straightforward. It denounces the Biden administration's open border policies. It condemns the national security and public
Does that
crisis that the
help us?
president has
Does that
caused
make it
and
better?
urges President Biden to end these open border policies. If you're wondering why we need to pass this resolution, it's simple. Because some still denies that a crisis is occurring, and some deny that the president and his administration bear any responsibility for it. But the border numbers do not lie. In fact, they tell us a clear story about the depth of this crisis and approximate cause rooted in Biden's administration policies. Consider that the total number of illegal aliens encountered along the southern border
Oh
under
God,
President
this
Biden
dork.
exceeds 7 million.
Was
At
it
the same
7 or
time, the Biden
9? Because you
administration has
guys keep
released at least
quoting
3.3
numbers, and
million
I'm gonna need
of
you to
those illegal
more,
aliens into the
or at
interior
least,
of the United
you know,
States. This number is
one of the
larger
4
than the
that you
entire
keep
population
saying.
of states like Nevada, Arkansas, and Kansas. Additionally, more than 1.7 million gotaways and an untold number of
Profiting
unknown
from deceit,
illegal
how Google
alien
profits from
gotaways have
anti-choice ads,
successfully
distorting
evaded
research.
capture by U.S. Border Patrol along
Just
the
that's
southwest
so
border. 312 illegal aliens on the terrorist screening data set were
Wow.
encountered along the southwest border
That's a
since
lot
Biden
for
took
your
office.
body.
By contrast, consider that in 4 years under the Trump administration, a total of
Yeah,
only
coming in
11
hot with the
illegal
links.
aliens on the TSDS were encountered
Abortion is
by
essential,
Border
trending
Patrol.
news.
More
Okay.
than
On crisis
785,000
pregnancy
migrant
centers from the
encounters have been
American College
reported
of
just since the
Obstetricians and
beginning of this
Gynecologists.
fiscal
Thank
year,
you,
October
Bill.
1. That's the highest first
That
quarter
report
total
has
ever
that
reported.
report has
In fiscal year 23,
a report on
27,000
CPCs and
pounds of
sources.
fentanyl were seized at the southern border. This is
Center
almost
for
double fiscal
Countering
year
Digital Hate,
22,
profiting.
and
Okay,
it's
yeah.
6 times larger than fiscal year 20.
There's the link for that.
March 2023 report by the Council on Foreign Relations found that 152,000 unaccompanied minors were found at the U.S.-Mexico border
Oh
in fiscal
boy.
year 2022.
This-
Presently, the Biden administration has lost contact with as many as 85,000 of these
I
UACs.
thought it was 100,000.
Until 2012, most of
I
those
thought it was
encountered by the Border Patrol, in fact,
100,000.
about 85% were
What is
city-citizens of
that?
Mexico, but the landscape has changed.
What
In
I worked
fiscal
for
year
Satan when I
22,
volunteered working
migrants
on the
from Mexico
Obama
crossing
campaign. I
illegally
laughed
made
so
up
hard,
just
then repeated
33%.
Captain of
Now,
Flag, quoting the
individuals are
Bible.
coming from
Yeah.
more than 150 different countries, and many of these countries have
You
direct ties
were
to terrorism. The crisis is real,
Look
and
at
it's
Jerry.
getting
He's
worse
like,
because the world
this
knows President
Yahoo.
Biden will do nothing to defend the physical borders of our nation.
Nothing.
So what's the result? President Biden's
Well, he
open border
would
policies have
probably not
resulted in a
let a woman
significant
and her
threat to our
2
national
children
security and
drown
have caused a public safety crisis
while
in the
everybody
interior
watched.
of the United States. Overcrowded classrooms, children trafficked
Better
to work in
chance with
industries
him than
unsuited for
the
children,
other guy.
millions in unpaid medical bills in hospitals across the U.S., overwhelmed first responders in border communities, Border Patrol agents who feel like travel agents, homeless veterans who get kicked out of shelters in favor of illegal aliens,
Wow.
and even the deaths of
Think
innocent
about the data.
Americans. And these effects are being felt in rural and metropolitan communities in both red and blue states. As of the beginning of December, the city of Denver had spent over $33 million to house, feed, and educate around 30,000 illegal
See,
aliens. Chicago residents are up in arms about the money spent on illegal alien shelters in their communities when the taxpaying residents themselves have been asking for and denied additional
Oh my
services
God,
for
Trump
years.
hasn't shown up yet.
The New York City mayor continues to lament the illegal aliens being busted into that city will destroy, quote, destroy the city. In 2022,
Oh,
73,000
when you
people
have
died
uncontrolled
of
influx
fentanyl
like
overdose in
that
the U.S. This is more than
without
double the deaths
cooperation
in
between states,
2019
you're absolutely
and the
right.
highest
There's
in
probably
American
better
history.
ways to
Assaults
do
on
this,
Border Patrol agents have doubled in the
but you
last year.
guys don't seem very
Nevertheless,
interested
the
in
Biden
sitting down and
administration is
figuring that
doubling
out.
down on its
I
open
mean,
border
that's what I
policies. What will it take
I'm sorry.
for this administration to wake up and take action? House Resolution 957 denounces Biden administration's open border policies, condemns the national security and public safety crisis that the administration has caused, and urges the president to end his open borders agenda. It's simple and to the point, and the American people deserve its passage. I
Wah,
yield back.
wah.
Thank you very much. Ranking Member Nadler, you're recognized for your
And what
opening
was the
statement.
point of that?
Chairman Cole, Ranking Member McGovern, thank you for the opportunity to testify today on this resolution.
Jerry says,
This country is facing
get
real
the fuck
problems.
out of here.
There's an erosion of trust in our government and institutions. The right to bodily autonomy is under attack across the nation. There was a school shooting just 4 days into the new year, leading to the tragic death of an 11-year-old and the injury of 7
Yep.
others.
That's right.
Our
6-week
immigration
ban
system
is
cannot
banning
function
abortions. You can't get
because
one until you're
Congress
6
has
weeks
failed to
along.
reform it for over 30 years.
Exactly.
And we are just days away from large parts of our government shutting down. But instead of working to respond to these problems, House Republicans are fighting among themselves.
I think I have to go
Their
get my
inability
dog.
to govern led to another failed rule vote last week and has brought us to the brink of a
Whoa.
government shutdown. The historic dysfunction has prompted multiple members of their conference to complain that they have nothing to campaign on. But instead of laying out a legislative
gosh.
agenda to
Thanks,
address the
Carol.
needs of the American people, we are here in the Rules Committee to discuss a pointless border resolution. This resolution will do nothing to solve the situation at the border. It proposes no solutions of any kind.
What does it
In
propose?
fact, this resolution is nothing
I
more
kind
than a
of stopped
highlight
listening.
reel of the Republican talking points on immigration that we have heard over and over from Republicans since President Biden was sworn into office. So let me say once again, the border is not open.
That's
The
right.
Biden administration is removing people at a very significant pace in ways that I have concerns about with respect to due process. Since the end of Title 42 last May, the Biden administration has removed or returned
Mhm.
over 470,000 individuals and members of family units. This total is nearly equivalent to the number of people removed in all of fiscal year 2019 under the Trump administration. But because President Biden isn't saying that he wants to shoot migrants trying to cross the border like Governors Abbott and DeSantis have, Republicans don't think he's doing enough. Today, there are approximately 38,000 people in immigration detention, which is 4,000 more than what the Department of Homeland Security is even funded for. Levels of detention similar to those during fiscal year 2018 during the Trump administration. And despite my colleagues' claims, fentanyl is largely not coming into this country between ports of entry. More than 90% of fentanyl interdicted is stopped at ports of entry, where cartels attempted to smuggle it through, primarily in vehicles driven by American citizens at ports of entry. That is why DHS was able to stop over 43,000 pounds of fentanyl from hitting our streets and seized more than 3,600 pill presses. So I'm not sure how anyone can say the border is open or that this administration is not enforcing our laws. On top of this, at every turn, Republicans have voted against giving DHS the resources it needs to do its job. In 2021, all but 6 current House Republicans voted against the bipartisan infrastructure deal, which provided additional funding to modernize ports of entry and allow for non-intrusive inspections to combat the smuggling of people and drugs. Likewise, all but 2 current House Republicans voted against providing robust funding for Customs and Border Protection and border security operations in fiscal year 2023 appropriations omnibus legislation. That bill provided more than $17 billion to CBP, including $60 million to hire an additional 125 CBP officers and $70 million for non-intrusive inspection technology to detect narcotics and firearms at ports of entry. And when it comes to the President's supplemental request, which would provide $14 billion for
Again, the
border security,
dictionary.
we have not had a single hearing, let alone a vote on the request. The President has requested vital funds for 375 immigration judges and 1,600 asylum officers to speed up processing of asylum claims, as well as funds for additional personnel at ports of entry and technology to stop drugs from coming into the country. If we had adequate numbers of asylum officers and immigration judges, we could decide these cases in weeks, not years. You wouldn't have the problem of catch and release that Republicans are so fond of talking about, but the Republicans refuse to vote the funds to solve that problem. Instead, House Republicans insist they will only consider H.R. 2, their draconian enforcement-only bill that would destroy the asylum system, gut protections for unaccompanied kids, and end all parole programs. Policies that stand no chance of passage in the Senate, which shows that they're not interested in real solutions. Real solutions require compromise, and MAGA Republicans aren't interested in compromise. We need to work together to address our broken immigration system. Enforcement alone cannot fix it. We know this because that approach has largely failed for 3 decades. We need to update our immigration system so that it meets the needs of our country. We need a balanced,
Karen, how
bipartisan
are
approach
you?
that expands
Welcome.
lawful pathways. This will help
How are
relieve
you?
pressure on the border and allow
Welcome.
people to come to this country in an
Oh my gosh,
orderly
that's
and
the best,
efficient way.
easily. That's what we
This
need.
resolution, however, is nothing
We
but
need
empty
traveling
rhetoric
clinics,
designed to score cheap political points that brings us no closer to meaningful
traveling
reform.
showers,
I
traveling
urge my
clinics,
colleagues to reject this resolution, and I'd be happy to
traveling,
answer your questions.
traveling
I
like,
yield back.
Thank both our witnesses. I'd ask you both,
clothes and
I'll start with
supplies.
you, Representative Nadler. Are there more people or fewer people coming into the country illegally in the last 3 years than the 3 years before?
Oh, shut up.
Well, as I said, there are probably more people now.
No, no, there are certainly.
You want to
more
know
people,
why?
not probably
Because we
more
had
people.
COVID. Stupid
It's
shit.
certainly true that we're seeing unprecedented
COVID.
migration at the border. That's due to a
Jerry,
record number of
say
displaced people around the
COVID.
world.
Oh,
Road
you're
travel
welcome
being
to.
shut down because of the
I mean, oh
pandemic
my
and the Trump
goodness, I
administration's
really
gutting
appreciate that.
of
Very
legal
much.
immigration, including the refugee program. We should work together on bipartisan solutions instead of passing meaningless
Very
resolutions.
I asked you the same question, Mr. Moran. Are there more people or fewer people coming across our border illegally?
There was
Chairman
oh
Cole,
my
there's
God,
significantly
Jerry, wake
more
up.
people coming across our border illegally in
Jerry,
the last 3 years than there were under the prior
these old
administration,
men. So done with
by
them.
significant multiples.
Okay, if we,
Blue.
again, I'll ask you
I
both.
don't know how to do
If
it.
we, the number of people claiming asylum, how many actually, when their cases are adjudicated, what's the percentage roughly of people that we find legitimately have a asylum claim?
I don't know.
Well, I can tell you, it's roughly almost 90% of those claims are not legitimate
Well, that
asylum
may-
claims that once they're adjudicated.
Mr. Chairman, that makes my point, that we should have enough funding for enough asylum judges and asylum officers so we
There you
can
go.
make those determinations in weeks, not in years.
Well, if the.
And that's what the Biden
Do
administration
you
has
think
tried.
the president's executive orders that he issued the very first day he was elected
Exactly.
or
US
sworn in as
is one
president,
of the worst per capita.
made our borders
Stupid
more
on
secure or
purpose.
less
Oh my
secure?
God, yeah.
I think the fact of the matter is that
Oh
since the end of
no.
Title
Big
42,
crazy.
Biden
Laddapo is
administration
such
has
an
approved or
idiot.
returned to
I
Mexico
hate
over
him.
470,000 people, including over 78,000 individual members of family units, including children.
Right?
This total is equivalent, or almost equivalent, to the number of people
Oh.
removed in all of fiscal year 2019 under the Trump
I know,
administration.
right? We need them.
If more people are coming and
We
you're
need
only
to be helping
removing
our
about the
country.
same number,
Like,
aren't
what's
more
good for our
people here
country? If they
illegally?
want to be like weird about it.
Yes, more people are here illegally, but again,
Then
if
wouldn't
we
it have
had
been a
the-
good
if-
idea to keep
again-
the Remain in Mexico policy to
No.
Oh
continue
my
to
God,
go
we're
law?
not arguing
Why?
that right
No,
here.
because the good idea is to have enough
Because that's
funding
creating a
to be
crisis
able to
somewhere else
adjudicate
that
these
you then
cases
have
in
to
weeks
deal with.
and
Oh my
remove the
God,
people
you
who
guys
don't
are
deserve
done.
asylum and have the people who do deserve asylum be able to be peacefully in this country and get work permits. That's what would solve the problem. And the administration has asked for that funding, and the Republicans have refused to vote that funding. That's what would solve the problem.
Chairman,
Didn't you control the Congress until about a year
Well,
ago?
thank God. I mean, I hope that
Were there no
I'm
increases in
not
funding
saying
when
that
you had
any
the House,
administration
the
has done a
Senate,
good
and the
job
presidency?
around this.
A
And
lot of the numbers
frankly,
you're
we
talking
need
about have gotten
scrutiny, we
worse when
need
you
some
were in complete
transparency, and we need
control of
some
both
good
the
policy.
legislative and the executive branch.
But
You ever heard of the filibuster or the filibuster?
I
these
theory?
guys
certainly
aren't even
have.
interested in sitting
Okay.
down and having a
That
genuine
answers the question.
Didn't you
conversation about
control
it.
the
And
United
that's
States
what we
Senate?
need.
Didn't you
By
control the
60
House?
votes? By 60 votes? No.
Yeah. So shut up.
I'm sorry, the problem's gotten worse on your watch,
Oh,
not
shut
better.
up.
Go to Mr. Moran with the
COVID.
same question.
Chairman Cole, I want
COVID.
to just address the fact that funding is not the issue here because funding is at some of the highest levels in decades. It's a matter of will and policy by the executive branch in this country. And as it relates to needing more judges to adjudicate matters, Chairman, you pointed out the correct issue, and that is we're seeing
high levels of asylum claims that are granted, and lots of folks that even before their case is adjudicated, released, most of whom don't come back for their adjudication. They just stay within the United States. But what we saw when there was the Remain in Mexico policy was those incorrect claims of asylum went away because many people just didn't want to get in the United States and be released freely. They knew they were going to have to stay in Mexico or some other country while their claim was adjudicated. They weren't willing to do that because frankly, they knew their case was not worth being adjudicated. So by expanding that asylum definition and by letting people go within the interior of the United States, we have seen this rise in cases that is overwhelming our immigration system at this point. When you go back though to these numbers where Ranking Member Nadler mentioned about the number of folks that have been sent out of the country now as opposed to earlier, Chairman, you hit the nail on the head. I had a flood in my house, a water flood in my house during my primary a couple of years ago. And the first thing I did was go to the water main and turn it
This
off, because if I tried
right
to clean up
here,
the mess in my
Dragon.
house
No
while that
human
water
is
was continuing
illegal.
to flood my house, there's going to be no way for me to catch up.
We have to
And so the
figure
first
out
thing to
how
do
to
is
do it
correct
so
the
that it
problem,
is
fix the issue, and then
helping
clean up what
people.
needs to be cleaned up
We're
on
a
the
country of
interior. We're
immigrants.
failing to do that by failing to shut off the border
Sorry, we chose
itself.
the tough route.
I thank
Thanks,
both gentlemen
Easily.
for their answers. Now turn to my good friend, the ranking member, for any questions he may have.
Yeah, defund and
Well,
then
thank
bring
you.
Democrats.
Thank you both for being here. Let me just so I understand this. In the bill we're talking about right now, there's not any additional funding for border security or for additional staff to adjudicate asylum claims.
Not a nickel.
And if I understand that, this
That's right.
basically is simply a bill to just condemn the Biden administration. I
Oh,
mean, there's
family
no,
separation
there's
was
no there other than
is
this is like
horrific.
a statement of condemnation. Is that it?
That's correct.
Is that what this bill does? Is that it?
Ranking
Yep,
Member, what this
that's
bill
right.
does and the reason
The
why
vast majority
I
returned to
answered this
immigration
question in my
court. The
comments,
Gestapo
opening
CBP
statement
gave them
was,
papers that had no
why do we
dates,
need
wrong
this? We need
dates.
this
This
for
man
two
is
reasons.
lying.
One,
Yes,
because
thank you, Dragon.
folks on the Democratic side of the aisle refuse to acknowledge that there's a
Yeah.
crisis at the border, number one, and number two, they refuse to acknowledge that it's largely a
Oh
result of
yeah, all
Biden's
right.
policies.
Yeah,
And if that
somehow
acknowledgement were to
it's too
happen,
bad that's
this
not a real thing.
resolution likely
Yeah.
would not be needed.
I think what
I mean, I
people
don't want to hurt
are
anybody,
looking
but
for, and I
you know what I'm
think
saying.
what
One planet
many
with
of our,
imaginary borders,
many of our
right?
constituents are looking for
And
are solutions,
and
right?
borders.
How do we deal with this? There's a lot of reasons why people are coming to the border right now. You know, the world is in unprecedented turmoil. People are coming from all over the world for a variety of reasons. And, you know, that's one subject that maybe that we need to improve some of our foreign policy initiatives. But it seems to me that there is great consensus that, you know, we need to beef up our border security. That doesn't solve everything, but that's one thing we can do. It seems to me that what Mr. Nell is suggesting about additional funds for, you know, to help process asylum claims seems like a reasonable thing to do. I think that Democrats and Republicans could agree on that.
Give me
I
a
mean, there's an old
toaster.
saying that you don't have to
I
agree on
just saw
everything to
that
agree on
easily.
something. So there's
Give me a
something we agree
toaster.
on, we got to get done, and we got to
It
move
was so
forward.
funny.
But here's what I worry about, Mr. Moran. I worry about, and I say this not with any disrespect, but I really think that some of my Republican friends are not interested in solving the problem. They're interested in a political issue. And I say that, and maybe you were on this call, where reports about House Speaker Mike Johnson privately told House Republicans that he will not accept whatever border security deal comes out of the current talks between the Senate and the White House. A GOP lawmaker familiar with the call said, we don't even know what that deal is. And were you on that call with the speaker when he said that?
I was on that call.
And I'm just trying to understand, I get it. You guys are committed to this HR2, which a lot of people, I was find offensive and quite frankly, against our values. But nonetheless, I think everybody agrees we ought to do more at the
Agreed.
border to
Agreed
stop people
easily.
from coming in. We ought to do more to get these asylum claims moved forward quicker. And if you
Also
don't
true.
qualify, then
In
you
fact,
cannot
it's
stay here.
horribly cold.
Like, I mean, Mr. Nadler talked about the filibuster from the Senate. There are some pretty right-wing Republicans in the Senate on the Republican side who I don't think are pushovers. But if there is a bipartisan deal in the Senate that emerges on this, that can get around a filibuster, isn't it worth at least looking at it and considering it to see whether or not there's any merit in it? It may not be everything you want, and it may contain things that I find very, very objectionable. But before I would rule it out of order as unacceptable, I mean, I'd like to see it. And so there's this growing feeling by many people on my side that you guys are interested in the political issue and not in solving the issue. So I'm trying to understand on this conversation that the speaker had that you were on, why would he say that if we don't have a deal yet?
Well, I think you're misinterpreting what he's saying, and certainly out of context, because what Speaker Johnson has said over and over again is that he wants to work with the Senate Democrats, and we realize we have to work with the Senate Democrats to get something done. But it just won't be that the House Republicans are going to take, quote, whatever. We're not going to take illusory promises
Well, maybe you could correct
that
the
really
record.
are meaningless.
Maybe because according to this article, according to this GOP lawmaker, what he said, in addition to what I just recalled, is that you would back anything less than Republicans secure in the Border Act HR 2, that it's that or nothing. I mean, is that an accurate?
Well, I think you're totally missing the point.
I'm just reading from I'm reading from an article that appeared. There's multiple press reports that this is what he said. So the deal is, I mean, I just want to understand, because I mean, you know, we're kind of spinning our wheels here, trying to find common ground, trying to figure out ways to get to something that, you know, could get through the Senate, and then we can maybe consider here. But why are we wasting our time if it's all or nothing? And according to multiple news articles and GOP sources, he made it clear it's all or nothing. Am I?
Would
what
the
am I-
gentleman yield?
Yeah, well, I just,
After-
yeah, I mean, am I accurate on it?
Ranking member, I don't think you're accurate in the way you're portraying this. And quite frankly, the first way to get to a solution of a problem is to admit there is a problem. And that's the purpose of this
Yeah.
resolution here. If I may, there has been no admission that I have heard, even from the ranking member of the Judiciary Committee or yourself or any member of the Democratic side of the aisle, that has admitted that there is a border crisis.
Mr. With all due
He just
respect.
said it. I don't, maybe
with all-
we're speaking different languages, Mr. Nadler.
Of course, and we all, I think, admit there's a
That's
major
so
problem.
weird.
I said repeatedly today, maybe the gentleman can't hear what I'm saying, is that there are solutions. And the solutions involve adequate funding for asylum judges and for Border Patrol and so forth and so on, which we've talked about. But no one denies there's a major problem.
No, I'm saying, I mean, and that's why I'm always, you know, I'm a little stunned by your remarks, because many of us have put out statements about the situation at the border. The administration has talked about the challenges at the border, and I think, and we're trying to figure out, well, what can we do?
You know, this is a
And I
really
think
good
what we're running up
question.
against, the good news is the Senate, which
And
I'm
haven't
not
spent a lot
particularly
of time
fond of,
thinking
seems
about
to be
the
actually
dynamics
working in a
here,
bipartisan way to try to come up with something.
but I
don't know
do
what, at the
believe
end of the
something is
day, whether there's something
functionally
they come up
not right.
with is
You know,
something that
like,
I can support,
I don't
or
know.
you can
I
support,
don't know.
whatever. But
That's a very good
it seems to me we
observation.
ought to be open to looking at if they can come up with a
Yes,
bipartisan proposal
that's right.
that may not do everything you want, but actually moves us in a different direction, you know, and provides more security at the border. And so that's why I am
Good shit for
deeply,
people. My
deeply,
God.
deeply frustrated by the speaker's remarks. And I get it. I understand where some of my
They
friends on the other side of the aisle are
they
coming from.
can.
I mean, they're
Nothing has
this
real
is an issue
meaning.
that's ripe for them to demagogue, and they do it on a regular basis. But at the end of the day, if we're really serious about this, you know, you
I
don't have to
remember
agree on
that,
everything to
Dragon.
agree on something. Something you agree on, you get
I remember
done,
that.
and then you move on, and you keep on doing it. And I don't know what the next election is going to be, the results are going to be. You know, I don't know who controls the House or who controls the Senate, you know, or how the race for the presidency will go. But the bottom line is, you can't be waiting around for the next election all the time. to be able to do something. And, and I think that there are Democrats, and I hear it all the time, that want to do some stuff that I think some Republicans agree on. Can we just get that done? And then continue to fight about the stuff
Here
that
you
we
go.
disagree
Troy's
on?
so
Anyway,
dumb.
that's my,
We found our first point of agreement, by the way. I'm not fond of the Senate either.
Hi, Pepper.
So
All right,
I think
we
we've-
agree on
I think we've
something.
found a
We
point of
agree on
agreement.
something. Maybe we could pass a bill to say something about that, but in any time, anyway, it's just frustrating because we have these arguments all the time.
They do have
And
many.
it's like, there's,
That's right.
there-
There are
and I
many
know that there are things
sparrows
that we
flying
can't agree
around
on, but yet
Washington DC.
it's either all or nothing.
Washington.
And that's why the speaker's remarks, I think, are particularly discouraging.
Oh,
Yeah,
gentlemen,
I
you know,
yield to the gentleman.
Just for a point of clarification, my friend, I
Don't
was on that
insult
call
my
as well.
speaker. I was
And
on that golf trip.
is, to Mr. Moran's point, not an accurate report of what the speaker
Oh,
said.
shut up.
He was given several
It was.
hypotheticals that people say, well, the deal has this, and how anybody can say that, I don't know,
I don't
quite
either.
frankly, because nobody knows. Nobody's seen any text yet. And so the remark was, well, if it's this and this and this, well, no, I wouldn't agree to that. So it wasn't I wouldn't agree to anything, or I wouldn't look at the agreement. But some of the reports coming out, which I think are pretty irresponsible, they're coming from both sides, quite frankly, of the political spectrum as to what I serve with James Langford, obviously the senator from my state. I have a high degree of confidence in him. If he came back and told me he'd agreed on something, believe me, there are things I'm hearing that I know James Langford would never agree on. So I'm actually agreeing with my friend. Let's wait and see what the text is. And then I think you're exactly right. We ought to evaluate it on that basis if we can do something. But we aren't an automatic rubber stamp for the United States Senate. We were never designed to be. So
No, I'm
may be good enough, may not be good enough, may require something different, but it's a legislative process and we're pretty early in it to decide. We all know, and of course we all know there's lots of other elements in this agreement. It's not just a border security agreement. A lot of people on my side would feel a lot more comfortable probably if it were. I actually support the other elements that would be in that package that we know more about. Some of my colleagues don't, fair enough. But again, I just want to assure my friend, the speaker did not say it's this or nothing. He was presented with hypotheticals about what other people were reading because of speculation. So, well, basically, certainly I wouldn't accept that or that or that. So let's wait and see if they get to a deal, and then I'll join my friend. We'll look at it.
Oh, well, isn't that
We might even find ourselves
interesting?
voting on the same side.
No, I
Thank you,
appreciate that.
Dragon.
Again, I'm just
Facts
going by
facts are
news reports
pesky.
I think that's fair,
that
but I
were-
listened to the conversation,
that
so.
were related to reporters by a GOP member who was apparently on the call. So
And again, I know my friend's never been in a private conversation that was misreported someplace that he had to respond to. I think all of us have had that experience on both sides of the aisle. And,
we'll see what we'll see what happens. But again, I think at this stage, again, this is not a new issue, and certainly people, this is not a new issue that people have been trying to work on. But if we can remain open to what might come out of the Senate, and again, it may be something we can support, maybe that we can't support, but as long as people have an open mind, I think that would be probably the most useful thing we can do.
I agree very much with my
I
friend.
yield back.
Thank you very much. Again, I'll go to my good friend, Dr. Burgess, who actually represents a border system.
Thank you. And, yeah, thank you for bringing
Thanks, Karen.
to the Rules Committee.
I wish I knew all the words.
I
I'm
wasn't
gonna
serving
be
here in
honest with you, usually
1986.
I read this
The
as
bill was passed. It was called the
Republican
Simpson-Mazzoli
fart
Act.
factory.
Simpson-Mazzoli,
That is literally
pretty
what
simple
I.
principle. We've got 4 or 5 million people in the country who are
I quickly
undocumented.
glanced at your
We're going to
chat.
give them all amnesty. And then by golly, we
Your
will be
Republican fart
serious
factory?
about securing the border after that. And here's the problem. The amnesty occurred. The security never did. And that's why your constituents and my constituents are so skeptical of everything that comes out of this administration. They've seen him do nothing but wave the welcome flag and then wring his hands when he says, oh, we've got a real problem here. This is
local
a
Florida weather
problem
system
not
20.
requiring immigration reform.
Well,
This is a
knock up on
problem
orange juice,
requiring
kids.
serious border
We're not
security.
grabbing oranges. God, I
And
hope
the
everybody's
administration
okay.
seems unwilling or unable to provide that. They
You
are
guys better-
suffering politically
You guys better
mightily
figure out your,
because they
like,
are not willing to
pipes and
provide
shit.
that. And it's time for
Quickly.
them to get serious. Instead of constantly being at odds
Better
with
figure out
governors,
whether
and
to
they're
get them
not just
the water
Republican governors,
and,
by the way, but governors who
but you
are
should
having to
think
deal with this on a frontline basis
people in Florida
because they
are
are
not
border
prepared for that.
states. Instead of always being at odds to those governors, why not be helpful? And
There you go.
look, Mr. Nadler,
That's it.
a lot of sympathy for your
Hard stop.
mayor.
Thank you, Dragon.
But I got to tell you, in
I don't
the
recall it
budget
ever
committee a
being
year
that
and a
cold
half
when I
ago,
was
right before
maybe like
Title
30s or
42
40s.
expired, I asked the Secretary of Health and Human Services,
That's
what
my
are
fault.
you doing to provide information to the people who are downstream, who are going to be seeing the vastly increased numbers of people coming across the border without the benefit of citizenship? What
Apparently
are you
what
doing to
you
prepare them?
do-
What are you doing to prepare their schools, their hospitals,
You know
their
what they're
communities
doing? They're
for what
putting
is
them on
coming their
buses
way?
and shipping
And what
them
did
to
he
other
tell me? He
communities
gave me
who
a
aren't
non-answer and
prepared
said,
to
well,
deal
there are
with those
intergovernmental
type of
ways
stuff.
that this will be managed.
So
Well, that's
yeah,
BS, to be
I guess
polite.
we're just not
There
really doing
was
a
no
very good job,
intergovernmental
are we,
program.
sir?
There was willingness to do anything to alert those communities to what's coming, not to stop the problem from
Hmm.
coming, but just to say, hey, watch out because we're not protecting the border and this is what's coming your way. And as a result, you've
What?
got school districts. I know in our state, we've got school districts that are literally
Okay.
overwhelmed
Listen,
with people, new arrivals that they weren't prepared for. No one warned them. There was no forewarning to adjust their tax
I
base so
bet
they
you there
would be able
was.
to deal with that. We know law enforcement is
There was a
overwhelmed.
lot more
We
conversation
hear
than
from
you think there was.
sheriffs when we go down and
Wasn't
visit the border sheriffs will tell you in very plain language what they are dealing with. And Mr. Moran, your analogy about when you're dealing with a flood, you got to stop the flow first before you can do anything else. And this administration refuses to stop the flow. So my read of what your resolution does is say, look, we've got to stop the flow, Mr. President. If you won't, we will. And it has to happen.
Yeah, fuck them all. Dragon, I'm
I
telling you
was
right now.
also here
these
in
people are so
2010,
frustrating.
the ranking members left, said the Senate filibuster is what
There's not a lot of
prevented
not
any
evil
serious
people on
immigration
television
reform.
these days, or
You know,
whatever
I
this
was
is,
here in
online,
2010.
on
You had a
media.
60 vote majority in the Senate. And although it wasn't strictly everything that we're talking about today, Mr.
Oh,
Durbin
Dumpy is
had
late.
his Dreamer Act that he wanted to get across the floor of the Senate in a lame duck session in 2010. You have 60 votes in the Senate, but 4 Democrats voted against it. In fact, 3
I'm getting a
Republicans
little
voted with
worried
Mr.
about
Durbin. 4 Democrats voted against it. So it's not Republicans who are preventing this from happening. When you had 60 votes in the Senate, you couldn't do it either because your senators wouldn't vote for it. That's what makes this all so tiresome. The problem is not immigration reform. The problem is security. Please secure the border, and then we can talk about whatever else we need to talk about. Thank you, Mr. Chairman, for letting me vent on that, and I'll yield back.
Young lady from Pennsylvania is recognized for any questions she may have.
So what's great about this committee is there's equal opportunity. You know, this resolution starts with a nakedly political title.
It's true.
Lie that the administration has embraced open
It's
borders,
true,
which it has not.
It does
And it
not.
continues with a number of
Believe
false
me,
and nakedly political
we
assertions
are
about
still
the causes
problematic.
of migration at the border and the government's response to border security. It fails to recognize the strides that have been made in reducing the flow of migrants at the border, I think by over 2/3 in recent months, and the increasing seizures of fentanyl at the border. What it does make clear is that this is political, that it is not a legitimate attempt to find solutions to what is happening at the border. If the House Republicans were looking for solutions, they would have embraced the supplemental funding that the president has requested. If House Republicans were looking for solutions, they would have embraced the bipartisan attempts in the Senate to address the border issues instead of declaring that they will be dead on arrival in the House. And again, it's just clear that this is a nakedly political exercise. House Republicans are too happy to talk about the crisis at the border, but unwilling to do anything to address it. And in fact, the speaker has been quoted as saying that nothing will happen on the border until Trump is back in the White House, or there's another Republican president. So this is a political exercise. I don't think you can expect any Democrat to vote for this resolution, given the fact that it completely misstates what's happening and takes as its basic premise an open border policy, which is in fact not the policy of the Biden administration.
Libertarian
So I yield
churches.
back.
I'm just tired of libertarians.
Thank you. Gentleman from Pennsylvania is recognized for any questions he may have for the panel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I
Wait,
appreciate
Union
it.
Texas
Just
Sheriff.
to put these things in
One
perspective,
of
you know,
them. Oh
last
yeah,
month
actually,
was
I
the
have
highest
that.
number of border
Siegfried.
encounters ever in our history. I mean, that's the level where we are right now. With that said, Judge, do you have anything that you would like to add?
Just to go back real quickly to what Ms. Scanlon just said, that the Biden administration has not embraced open border policies.
Oh, don't
I'm
fucking.
struck by the
Dude,
fact
fuck
that
off.
in a
Come
memo
on now.
by
Shut up.
Speaker
Nobody
Johnson
needs it.
back in on
Wait,
January
what were we
4th,
talking
he
about?
laid
Oh,
out
yeah.
64 different instances and specifically by date and by action called out the administration for 64
What did I do
different
with
things
that?
he has done beginning on day one of the administration and continuing through the first week of January 2024
What are we
that
talking
actually
about?
have led to the border crisis that we're seeing now.
What
Back
is
in
it, sir?
December,
What would
Speaker
that be?
Johnson sent a letter December
My daughter just got home
21st
from.
to President Biden, specifically laying
My
out
daughter just got
a
home from school
number
and goes,
of
Mom, why are you
broad
listening to Lolo's
policy
thing
agenda
and the
items
other
that
thing?
he
You
should
can
return to. I keep hearing more
I
and more
love
about
her.
this. It's a
Thank
matter of funding. It's a
you.
matter of funding. It's a matter of funding.
Thank
If that were
you.
true, then you
Oh,
would
that's
think
my
that you would have seen a
gal. That's
huge
my little.
decrease of
That's my
funding
mini
January
gal.
20th,
She is raising
2021,
them well. They
because
are
that's when the increase in the
adorable.
surge of migration
They are adorable. I
began. But
should
what
just
we know
mute
is
them.
true is it's not a
Really, just
matter of funding.
humming.
Funding's, it's, as I
She's got
said
her
earlier, some of the
priorities right.
highest levels,
That's
even
right. It's
inflation
level.
indexed, as we have seen in the
I love
past
her.
40
What a
years.
sweetheart.
But in fact,
Welcome home from
the
school.
flow of illegal immigration has increased, and
Libertarians.
not just from one country, but from
Libertarians.
several countries.
And wait,
And
what
it's
about,
all a
let's see,
matter of
wait, what was I
will
gonna
and
say?
policy of the Biden
Because,
administration. That's the admission I really
yeah,
wish
let me
that the other
find
side of the
that
aisle
little flyer for that
take in this
goddamn thing in
resolution, is to admit
Texas.
that not just there's a crisis, but it's
Siegfried.
a result of and emanating from
Oh,
Biden's
Dragon, you're
policies,
sweet.
and that Biden can have the will, if he just has the
Oh,
will
let's see.
to undertake new policies or return to some policies, Remain in Mexico being at the top of that list, it would fix a lot of the
Okay,
situation on the
wait, what am I
border,
doing?
something that we see day
Oh, is
to day.
hail happening? Is that in
Thank you, Judge
Florida?
Moran. I appreciate it. With that, I yield back.
I think you're in Florida.
Thank you very much, gentleman.
You guys-
Colorado is recognized for any questions he may have.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Welcome, Ranking Member Nadler, of course, privileged to serve on your committee. And
tell you how
Moran,
much I love that
welcome
little
to the
kid.
committee, and understands that your first appearance before the Rules Committee, is that right?
It is
I
my
did not
first
teach
appearance,
him that.
hopefully not my last.
I did
Welcome,
not
welcome.
teach him
Thank
that.
you for the warm welcome, by the way.
Sure. Well, let's wait till
Seriously.
after my questions. Maybe.
Oh, okay.
No, I appreciate both of your respective testimonies.
Hold on, I'll find it.
Mr. Moran, I guess I want to drill down a little bit on this point that you've made very
I'm halfway
emphatically
there.
throughout today's hearing about funding.
Oh, he's
You know,
fine.
Ranking
They
member
deserved it.
posed
Whoever
this
got
question
it
to you
deserved
about
it,
border
Cal.
security funding, and
100%.
you're adamant that this has
100%.
nothing to do
In
with
fact,
funding. That
2016,
funding is at its
before
highest
border
levels, and
migrants qualified
that
for
this is
asylum
not
had
a
a backlog
funding
of.
issue. That's your
Oh, let me
testimony?
tell you something about this.
That is,
Okay,
and not to
can I
say
tell
that
you
there's
about
not
something more
areas
about
to look
this?
at where we can
Can I tell you?
increase funding
Can I
if
tell you something
necessary.
about
So
this?
funding
But
is an
fund-
issue.
No. Funding is not the primary issue, and that's
Boys.
what I've said. Funding is not the
No.
cause of what we've seen, because funding's at this all-time
Later
high
in the
level.
week. Oh,
But when
okay.
you drill down specifically, certainly
Where's
there
the
are
bolt?
areas, I think, when you look at just about every area
So let me ask you a question
of
about
the
this.
budget. Let me just finish my statement for a second.
No,
Every area
you
of the
don't get
budget is going to be overly broad, I think,
I
in some
reclaim my
areas, and
time.
under-inclusive in some areas. So there is always a good faith attempt to look at every area of the budget to determine where can we increase, where should we decrease. But certainly funding is not the issue that's being presented and not the cause of the border crisis.
Okay. So you've been in Congress for about a year. What was the first bill you introduced in the Congress?
Oh,
The first bill I introduced was the Border Security Investment Act.
The Border Security Investment Act. I pulled up this bill,
oh,
and in your
Oh,
release on
they-
January
they do
31st,
their
of
homework.
2023, you say, this is a quote, most importantly, this legislation will generate funding for badly needed border security investments. Here's my point. The president has submitted a supplemental budget proposal to increase border security investments and funding. he'd like for the Congress to work with him collaboratively on that. My sense is that most members of your conference agreed that funding is an important priority that we shared. It's just in the last 6 months that now suddenly, or I should say the last 4 months, since the president submitted his emergency request, that it has nothing to do with funding, notwithstanding that, you clearly decided this legislation. I'm happy to take a look at it after this hearing, that funding was important, that border security investments are
I'm trying to
important,
find that.
that
Oh,
that's
here it
something
is.
we ought to be
Take
working
our
on
border
together. So I'm just struck by the comments by my colleagues from the other side of the aisle and some of the testimony we've heard today, that this has nothing to do with funding, when it's because the president has made the case that we need to have increased funding. And it seems to me that it's a particularly convenient excuse, in my view, to, as the ranking member said, avoid doing anything about this challenge that I think we all agree we need to address. But I'm happy to give you an opportunity to respond.
Yeah, and I appreciate the fact that you brought up the Border Security Investment Act. Happy to talk to you about that. But again, back to the correlation, if funding was the primary issue for the cause of the border crisis, you would see a correlation between the decrease in funding and the increase of border crossings, illegal border crossings. You're not seeing that. I do think that there is a
What?
need for, if you look at my bill,
Are you
technology,
kidding me
border
right
agents,
now? He's been fully.
and wall. And these are three specific areas where we can
Well,
increase
you know
funding. As I
what?
said, there's overly inclusive areas of the budget and
hope
overly broad and under-inclusive.
Auntie
And I think this is
Lolo
an area
doesn't
that's
come up and
under-included in our budget where we need to increase that. And my Border Security
scares the
Investment
kids.
Act specifically says we need to take
Please,
that
Mama, make
money and get
some.
that money through remittances,
Funding
not on
and
the
wise
backs of
policies. And it's a tough
taxpayers,
one, right?
but on the
Let's sit down and
remittances that are
talk
going
about
back to
it. Let's
the
figure
top
out our
5
best
countries of
way of
origin
getting
for
to
illegal
it.
immigration, so that
I'm
U.S.
so sorry,
taxpayers are
but
not
I
bearing
think he
any
knew
more
when
financial
to.
burden,
He knew
because we're
when to
already
deploy.
seeing
He knew
overly
when to
burdensome system
deploy.
on the American taxpayer to
Yes,
deal with the
he
problems
is.
internally
He's
for
a
these
kid.
illegal
I
crossings.
just,
And I would just
he's a
suggest,
kid. He like him.
sir, that
It's a good kids.
I know when I was starting in Congress back in 2019, the first bill that I introduced as a member of Congress meant a lot to me, to my office. It was reflective of the
What's
priorities
the
that I
point,
believe
Joe?
this Congress ought to be pursuing. And so I would just say again, I'm struck that the first bill that came to mind for you and your team was a bill to invest in border technology, as the president wants to do.
Ooh.
Bill to increase personnel, border agents funding within CBP, as President Biden wants to do.
Ooh.
And to me, that seems like a place in which we can potentially find some common ground. But in any event, I'll conclude just by, I suppose, reinforcing a point that the ranking member made with respect to this particular resolution, because I think you and I will agree that, and it's evidenced by the plain language of the resolution, this resolution doesn't actually do anything. I mean, it's not, there's no provision in here that changes any law, right? Correct?
That's correct.
Right. There's no provision in here that allocates more funding, obviously. It's a non-binding statement of opinion for those members that choose to vote for it. It will do nothing to address the challenges that we have on our southern border. And I would just hope that the Republican conference could put to the side some of these efforts that we know are not going to bear any real fruit and engage with us collaboratively on trying to address the problem. Because there are many of us who'd like to do so, but it's hard to do that when we're called back to Washington to vote on a 2-page resolution condemning the president. And that is touted as the panacea to the crisis on the southern border. I mean, I don't think the American people would concur in that assessment. I'm happy to give you a chance to respond if you'd like.
No, I appreciate the dialogue. I really do. And I would appreciate you looking at my Border Security Investment Act. I think it's a substantive provision as well. I was also pleased to introduce the Visa Overstays Penalty Act, which was part of HR 2. And I served as one of the 8 original co-sponsors to HR 2, and firmly believe we need to get back to that. That's something that I wish we had more dialogue with substantively from the Democratic side, to find areas in HR 2 that you'd be willing to support as well, because frankly, it is the substantive bill that needs to get passed. What we're trying to do by this resolution is to resound the alarm. And I'd sure like to see that some Democrats admit that at least in part, if they would just say at least in part, I believe it's the primary cause, but at least in part is a result of the Biden administration policies for the past 3 years.
I would say this, because you referenced HR2, and there's been so much emphasis on, the part of my colleagues on their side of the aisle about HR2. You all are very proud of that bill. And as the ranking member referenced, the call that you all apparently had with the speaker and, various takes on what happened on that call, but pretty clear that the vast majority of your conference refuses to do anything on immigration and immigration reform, border security, with the exception of HR2. That's essentially your, it's that or nothing, right? I mean, that's the position that I've certainly heard from.
I'm sorry that that's the public perception, but frankly, the Republicans are doing, I think, a lot of different arenas to try to move the ball forward and willing to engage in substantive discussion. But I haven't heard one Democrat say that there's any part of HR2 that they would support. I'd like to understand if there's portions of HR2 that Democrats on whole would say, you know what, we agree with this portion. But so far, what I hear is we're just not going to accept anything from HR2.
Well, I think, as you know, obviously, we all know that the senators are engaged in a robust debate right now in a negotiation. And so we'll have an opportunity to test this hypothesis in a few weeks. But anyway, thank you for the exchange.
Appreciate the time.
I yield back to Malcolm.
Thank you very much. Gentlelady from Minnesota is recognized
And
for
then
any
what?
questions she may have for the panel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And I just want to say thank you to Mr. Moran for bringing this forward.
Oh, she's
because I
back.
think that this is one of the things, the border is one of the things that I hear about when I go home. And they talk about it because
You
of the
do?
fentanyl,
That's
because of the
ridiculous.
public safety issues that it creates.
Really?
And so we need to make sure that we are talking about it and
Where's
doing
she
what we
from?
can about it. And I always appreciate when Dr. Burgess talks so passionately about the border issues and bringing them forward.
Go
So
up and down
thank
in
you to
Concertina
for
where it
bringing
is
it.
not
And
doing anything
with that, I yield
meaningful.
back.
Yeah,
Thank you very
exactly.
much. Gentlelady from New Mexico is
Seriously.
recognized for any questions she may have for the panel.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And as the Latina on the panel, as well as the representative of a border state, and I represent counties that border the Mexico border, as well as sadly counties that border Texas.
Minnesota. Okay.
And I will say that I did want to introduce
From
into the record,
Canada.
Mr. Chairman, fact check. Asylum seekers regularly attend immigration court hearings.
Without objection.
Thank you. And there have been decades of studies that show that asylum seekers regularly do attend court hearings. 11-year study, 15-year study, shorter term studies. Asylum seekers are serious and they attend their court hearings. Our problem is we don't have enough of them. And I think that was the point
Musing
that
about
Representative Nadler was making. There was also another fact check that says that many asylum seekers actually do, when you actually look at who actually applies and is moved into and moves through the process, not those who are rejected at first. That's about 32%. So when you actually have the resources to actually do your asylum process, 32% is a high rate, I think.
Order
But what's
sign.
really problematic
I never
for
remember
me
the words to that.
about this resolution is what we've been talking about, that it does nothing but continue a rhetoric which has an incredibly hateful side to it. The Republican,
Order. Who's that?
likely Republican nominee for president has stated that
Oh, that's
immigrants
fine.
are poisoning
South
the
of
blood of our
border,
country.
down
Echoing
the
Mein Kampf,
way.
echoing a period
don't know
in
the song.
history when the call to hate somebody who wasn't like you, led to World War II, led to Nazism. And this concept of saying open borders or invasions lead to death when people show up and murder
Yep.
Mexicans, Mexican Americans, and others in border towns.
That's right.
They lead to incredible rise in hate crimes, lead to rise in anti-Semitism, and they forget about the benefits that immigrants actually bring to this country. And undocumented immigrants who are right now caring for our elderly, caring for our children, picking the food that you will eat tonight. And so I think that that is part of the problem with a resolution like this that does nothing to solve the problem, but just feeds into a sense of divisiveness. And what I like about what we are trying to do is actually look towards a vision where we become a more inclusive society, where we honor those who contribute to the society,
You're welcome, Karen.
and where
Thanks
we
for
actually
coming. I
do
really
things
appreciate you.
like,
Thank you.
say, the
Appreciate seeing
$16
you.
billion that the president wants, that Representative Nadler talked about, that actually would address some of the problems, and that this is not doing any of that. And so with that, that
Yep,
is
if
one of
you get
my
to court when they're
major
bused to
problems.
places they don't even
Uh,
recognize.
That is actually part of it all, is this divisiveness that this is really intended. I think maybe you didn't intend it, but this divisiveness that this feeds
Yep.
into. Um,
I know. She's wonderful.
And with that, Mr. Chairman, I'll
New
yield back.
Mexico, right?
Thank you very much. Before we go to Mr. Langworthy at
Amazing.
the end of the table for his questions, I want to make an observation that relates specifically to my friend from New York who made an extra effort to get here. If he weren't here, we wouldn't be able to conclude the hearing tonight.
Thank
So
you.
we are all incredibly grateful for that. But as I looked around this room earlier today, or thought about this room, I've spent a lot of the last weekend, like a lot of Americans,
Hey, you
watching
know,
the
that's
NFL playoffs.
probably not a
And I have to
terrible
tell you, it's not been a very
start in
good
terms of getting the
result
actual
for most of us on the
accountability
Rules Committee.
handed out.
If you're like my friend
Gotta
from
start somewhere.
Texas or me from Oklahoma, and I assume
Use the
Mr. Roy,
system.
was pretty disgusting what
I guess
happened
the
to
companies
Dallas or
will
what
be
they did to themselves. I don't want to blame
motivated.
anybody. I think they have to step up and take responsibility.
It's called
Disappointing, I
capitalism.
think. And I think of my friends from Pennsylvania, and they had to watch both
Welcome
the
to
Steelers and the
capitalism.
Eagles go down. I think of my friend, the ranking member, who's not used to watching a
Yep.
playoff without the Patriots in it.
And
I
now
can
they
go
have no
around the
way.
table
Yep.
now. Colorado's still, we'll see. The only guy that had a good night was Langworthy.
Ooh, they
So
should. Isn't
when this
DeSantis
hearing concludes, I'm
some
going to
airline down in
invite you and
Florida
any
part of
other
that? I
security
remember
who
that thing
can,
we looked at
the
once.
chairman's office, because I have a special presentation in honor of your Buffalo Bills who delivered an extraordinary
Is this,
performance.
did you
Josh
spend
Allen was
taxpayer money on
unbelievable,
this?
but honestly,
sir?
you guys were unbelievable across the thing. So thanks for not being
You weren't
hungover and
watching the
delirious and in
Iowa,
Buffalo, or we'd
you
not
weren't
be
watching
able
the
to
Iowa
finish this
caucus,
hearing
sir?
tonight. But I'm serious. I thought about this. I went out and got the present today. It will honor both you and the Buffalo Bill.
Can you drink it or smoke it?
You certainly can drink it. So with that, I want to
urine?
recognize my good friend from New York and thank him for being here.
Yeah.
Well,
here we go.
I am thrilled, and should we continue to go and finish this journey with the Buffalo Bills, we're going to petition the state government to replace some of the New York statues in the Capitol, and one of Josh Allen, I think, would be the rightful place at the Capitol.
Great.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. To my colleagues on the other side of the aisle who have alleged that this resolution before us is meaningless or pointless, I'd like to remind them of the following. On May 10th of 2023, House Republicans passed H.R. 2, the Secure the Border Act, to tighten the asylum standards, criminalize visa overstays, support our Border Patrol agents. In short, House Republicans passed legislation to
What about
end
getting
this crisis at our
price
southern
gougers
border.
to
And
help
in that very month, we had
consumers?
200,000 illegal alien encounters at the southwest border. Yet that did not stop the Biden administration and Senate Democrats from falling all over themselves, declaring that legislation dead on arrival. And it's also worth noting that from what we've heard on the other side here this afternoon, that House Republicans have included the highest level ever of spending for Border Patrol, $496 million in this year's DHS appropriations bill. That's worth noting as people want to talk about funding. On May 25th, House Republicans passed the Halt Fentanyl Act to support our law enforcement in the face of a flood of lethal fentanyl pouring across our borders. In 2023 alone, more than 112,000 Americans, mainly young people, many people of color, died of overdoses primarily caused by fentanyl. Now, we've seen these numbers on the rise for years, breaking records and
the thing is
destroying
they're
communities.
wonderful
But
states.
none
We
of
have the
this
worst
stopped more than
government.
half of House
Worst.
Democrats from voting no on the Holt Fentanyl Act. On July 19th, 2023, House Republicans
Democrats
passed the
support
Schools Not
fentanyl,
Shelters
and that's
Act
just what they're
to
trying to
prohibit the
push now.
use of public schools as
I'm not really
shelters
sure how that
for
makes sense.
illegal
Okay.
immigrants, to instead keep those schools open for our children. And House Democrats loudly opposed this bill and openly mocked it right here in this very room. Yet, just last week, in the opposition of local residents, James Madison High School in Brooklyn was closed to students. Students sent home and put on remote learning to make room for sheltering 2,000 illegal immigrants. The students were told to contact their teachers virtually if they needed help with that schoolwork. Haven't we seen that before? And how that works out. On November 30th, 2023, House Republicans passed the Protecting Our Communities from Failure to Secure the Border Act to ensure that illegal immigrants aren't crowded into tent cities on federal lands like they have on Floyd Bennett Field. Numerous accounts from the migrants housed there mentioned how children shivered at night in these makeshift shelters, but House Democrats voted no on stopping this asinine policy. House Republicans have time and again pushed for meaningful solutions in the face of an administration that refuses to do anything to solve or even acknowledge the extent of the national security and humanitarian crisis that we have here on our hands. We have passed legislation over the loud opposition of my colleagues on the other side of the aisle, yet time and again we have been told that these measures are dead on arrival. The bottom line is this. President Biden deserves our full condemnation for his unwillingness to address the crisis at our borders. To stop the flood of illegal immigrants
I
and
have an
lethal
issue
drugs
with
into
you
this
guys and
country.
your
Mr.
inability
Chairman,
to
I yield
accept
back.
the lawful transition of power. So there. And I don't yield
Well,
back.
thank you very
Yeah.
much, and I want to thank both our witnesses for a robust discussion. We always expect it when Mr. Nadler comes, and always a welcome thing to hear. And Mr. Moran, come see us more often. We appreciate you and your first appearance here as well. Our witnesses are excused.
No. Nah.
Okay. The chair will be in receipt of a motion from the gentlelady from Minnesota, Ms. Fishbach.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Miss
I move the committee
Fishbach.
grant
I
HR
thought it might be closed
6914, the Pregnant
already.
Students'
Yeah,
Rights
see,
Act,
I
a
think
closed
that's
rule.
true.
The rule waives all
I
points
think
of
that's
order against
actually true.
consideration of the
I
bill.
would
The rule
like to
provides
find,
the
I'll find
amendment in the
out. I
nature
know
of
a
the
lot of
substitute
principals
recommended
in
by the
New York
Committee on
City
Education
and
and
in Brooklyn,
Workforce,
per se,
now printed
or
in the bill, shall be
specifically in
considered
here.
as adopted, and the bill as amended shall be considered as
Probably
read.
because it was
The
fucking
rule
full of
waives all
lead,
points of
Paul.
order against provisions in the bill as amended. The rule provides 1 hour of general debate equally divided and controlled by the chair and the ranking minority member of the Committee on Education and the Workforce or their respective designees. The rule provides 1 motion to recommit. The rule further provides for consideration of HR 6918, the Supporting Pregnant and Parenting Women and Families Act, under a closed rule. The rule waives all points of order against consideration of the bill. The rule provides that an amendment in the nature of a substitute consisting of the text of the Rules Committee print 118-20 shall be considered as adopted, and the bill as amended shall be considered as read. The rule waives all points of orders against provisions in the bill as amended. The rule provides 1 hour of general debate equally divided and controlled by
The
the chair
witnesses are
and the
just
ranking
like
minority
other
member of the
Congress
Committee
people,
on
Paul,
Ways and
and
Means
so
or their respective
they're
designees.
basically the authors of
The
the
rule
bill.
provides
So
1 motion to
when the House
recommit.
drafts
The
a
rule further
bill,
provides for
my understanding is that
consideration
they
of
bring it to their
HRES
different committees
957
and they try and
denouncing
get
the
the
Biden
committee to make a
administration's
recommendation, I
open border
guess.
policies
So
condemning the
obviously
national
depends on the
security and
composition
public
of the
safety
committee
crisis
politically.
along with the southwest border,
But this
and
is how
urging
bills
President Biden to
eventually get
end
to the
his
floor. So my
administration's open border
understanding is
policies
that it's
under a
people
closed
like
rule.
Jerry
The rule
Nadler was
provides that upon adoption of this resolution, it shall
speaking
be
in
in order without
opposition to a
intervention of
bill
any
about the
point of order
border.
to consider
There's
HRES
all kinds of things. So some of
957.
them are kind
The
of
rule
frivolous
provides that the resolution shall be
and
read as
stupid, and then some of
considered
them
as
are,
read.
very
Finally,
serious.
the rule
It was
provides
very
1 hour of
interesting,
general
actually.
debate
I have
equally
not watched
divided and
much of the
controlled by
committee
the
work
chair
since
and
this
ranking
year
minority
or
member
last
of the
year.
Committee on Judiciary
So
or their
even
respective designees.
in 20,
Thank you very much. You've now heard the motion. Is there any discussion or amendment to the rule? Hearing no requests for further amendments, the question is on the motion to report. All those in favor signify
and
by
then
saying
this is where
aye.
they decide, okay, we're
Those
gonna
opposed
go
say
ahead and
no.
push it forward or
No.
whatever. I
The
don't
opinion of
know.
the chair, the ayes have it.
Chairman, I ask for a
Bam,
recorded vote.
bam,
A
bam,
recorded
bam,
vote's been
bam.
requested. The clerk will call the roll.
Mr. Burgess.
Burgess votes aye.
Mr. Burgess, aye. Mr. Rushenthaler. Mr. Reschenthaler, aye. Ms. Fishbach?
Aye.
Ms. Fishbach, aye. Mr. Massey? Mr. Norman? Mr. Roy? Mrs. Houchin? Mr. Langworthy?
Aye.
Mr. Langworthy, aye. Mr. McGovern?
No.
Mr. McGovern, no. Ms. Scanlon?
No.
Ms. Scanlon, no. Mr. Neguse? Mr. Neguse, no. Ms. Leisure Fernandez?
No.
Ms. Leisure Fernandez, no. Mr. Chairman?
Finally get to cast a decisive vote. Aye.
Mr. Chairman, aye.
The clerk will report the total.
5 yeas, 4 nays.
The ayes have it. The motion report's agreed to. Accordingly, Ms. Fishbach will be managing the rule from the majority.
Ms.
You
Scanlon
know,
for
once a great
minority.
person
Be a
told
good
me,
With that, thank you all for your patience and thank all of you for
they're
taking the
not in
time to
your
be here. I know it's
path.
very
They
difficult
are your
in many
path.
cases,
And
so I
I
appreciate
went,
that.
no,
And you
I
really
don't
were the
think so.
cavalry, Mr. Langworthy, so thank you.
Shut up. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. Nobody cares. You know, every day it's like a chips away. And you do everything you can sometimes to avoid getting triggered by shit, and then it's just somehow it finds its way. I mean, it's because of the algorithms, and it's really not, it's a you thing, not an anyone else thing. Yeah, Trump gave Saudis a virtual wall between Saudi. Oh, really? I didn't know that, Joe. Drones that use facial recognition technology. And Paul, is that a fact check? Yeah, witnesses fact checking the witnesses? Not really. Yeah. Abbott should be charged with murder. Oh God, easily. This is so true. I really, I couldn't believe the story about the woman and her 2 children who drowned. I believe it was Sunday, if I'm not mistaken. And I'm wondering, have we heard any more about that being investigated further by the DOJ? I haven't heard of anything whether or not that was going to happen. So I wonder. God, I hope so. And also, I heard today Roger Stone is going to be investigated for his basically his hit requests on other people. Yeah, Jim, while everyone stood around and watched, and while they stopped the Border Patrol from getting there, I don't even understand how that's humanly conceivable. Oh my God. I was gonna go to Trump's speech, which I certainly can. He's not even there yet. I suppose I could just at least have you look at it versus looking at my dumb logo. DOJ is going after Texas. Fantastic. Oh, that's very good news. I'm glad to hear that. I'm very glad to hear that. All right, let's see if this is where I want to go. Oh my God, you guys. Speaking of past history, I went into Chicks on the Right. I don't think it was this morning. I think it was yesterday morning. Yeah, I think it was yesterday morning. It wasn't this morning. I know. I'm not going to actually put the sound on. We don't have to stay here. I don't have to do this. But anyway, so yeah, no, please. Badger's like, please, no, please. Okay, Badger. For you, I probably won't do it. What we can do is just we can make up words. I think that would be the funniest. We'll just make up words. Because that's helpful. I guess I'm not doing anything really helpful to the cause. I hope I am. I hope somebody gets something out of what I do. But anyway, oh my God, I need to snap out of it. I need to grow up and move on. Abbott took over Eagle Pass Park where water is shallower. Abbott installed fence forces refused to allow CBP to access and aid the women and 2 children. I mean, my brain can't compute why you would even stand there. I don't even know how you'd stand there. So yeah, anyway. And then what was the other thing? I can't remember. Oh yeah. Where's Ivan? Because yesterday apparently he was in Pasadena, and I found out that today. And I'd like to know if he's still in Southern California. I'm stalking his Telegram account, which is, you know, bleh. But I can't. He doesn't have seemed to telegraphed any plans about what his itinerary is here in Southern California. So I'm curious to see if, but I'm sure he'll put something up. So yeah, I'll keep an eye on him. And let's see, Vivek dropped out. Oops. And it was like immediate. And what I couldn't stop thinking about was I've been listening to a lot of his speeches, right? So I've listened to a lot of Vivek's speeches, and the thing about Vivek is that he made a lot of promises to the people that he spoke to and got them to come out and, you know, caucus for him and be caucus captains and all this kind of stuff. And really put the squeeze on people, was like, you got to get out there, you got to get out there, you got to get out there. And like, we're not stopping, you can't stop us, nothing will stop us. And it was like the minute he lost, it was like, oh, we're done. And to me, it just, I mean, I knew that was going to happen. It's not that nobody didn't think it was going to happen. But it was really poor acting on his part. Like, he should not have, I don't know. It was just awkward. You know, to me, he's so dumb and he's so shallow, and like the guy who's in Die Hard that is like, hey, don't worry, Hans, I'll get you the plans to the building or whatever it is. I don't know what he is selling him or giving him. And then he ends up throwing that guy out the window. That's who they remind me of. That's who he reminds me of. He'll say anything. Anything. Anyway, so sober dumb, my dumbass forgot and turned the water off and the tape wasn't even plugged in. Well, you know, the thing is that it's, you know, as someone who's also, I did drink for a number of years. Now that I'm sober, my brain still isn't 100%. So I don't know how much I can attribute to the actual beverages or if it's just my brain. His campaign submitted the signatures of deceased people. Really? Vivek's did? Or that's crazy. And this is Dragon, you're saying this about are you saying that about DeSantis? Or, well, it's both DeSantis and Abbott have that, don't they? I believe. I think that's right. So yeah, I understand. Vivek, yeah. Okay. Yep. He is a scammer. My understanding is that he, sorry. I'm trying to multitask. Abbott, yeah. And they both do. Let's see, what else? Tomorrow I have I have an old hearing for us to listen to from, which one do I have? Oh, I have Pennsylvania. I actually have Pennsylvania, and I found an Arizona one that I don't think we watched. But anyway, I was going to tee those up for tomorrow for the trash heap. And then, am I compiling a list? No, but someone was doing that. Actually, now that you mention that, Dragon, I thought I did see something going around Twitter on that, but now I can't remember who posted it. I know they look freezing, don't they? They're all like hopping around. Well, it is New Hampshire. That's freezing. I feel like it's a picture on loop. It looks like it's a picture on loop. I wonder if Gal has anything or Jim Stewartson has anything on that, Dragon. I don't know. Oh, also Peter Navarro got denied in his jury tampering accusation. He got denied, so he's gonna not get a new trial and has to I don't know what he has to do now. Does he have to go to jail? And he doesn't have money for a I don't think he has much money for a defense, does he? Hey, Siegfried, welcome back. Yeah, I don't think he has money for a defense, does he? Is it next week on the 25th for Navarro? Ooh, that'd be good. I kind of wish they would, I sure wish that they would televise some of these things. I don't know. I mean, I just wish they would. Yeah, well, I guess it's never ending story. I'm just gonna have to suck it up, Buttercup. Suck it up, Buttercup. Well, we'll see if we cover that. I don't know. I'm not sure what is happening that day. Actually, you know what? I should use zombie TV mode is suitable. It is so true. Tape is plugged in and heater going under the trailer. House is warm and running the dryer. Can't. Oh man, Paul. Hang in there. Sentencing. Oh, Teresa, so good to see you. Oh my gosh, how lovely that you're here. Yeah, so that's the sentencing hearing. I wonder what his do you happen to know what the potential sentence is for him? Is it something stupid like 4 months? Because it's a contempt. Why isn't he just talking? Hi, love. Hi, bud. 30 days? Oh, this is nothing. Oh, Jesus Christ. What a big fucking waste of money. Oh, that's stupid. Oh my God. What a waste. This is all for the contempt of Congress, isn't it? And that's it. We're not even talking about like important. Oh, fucking shit. Oh my God. I am going to tell you right now. I am going to lose my shit. The time wasted on some of these storylines is just mind fucking blowing. Ugh, 2 counts. So 60 days. Not even 4 months. Don't lose your shit. Yeah, you're right, Pert. Don't lose your shit. That's true. And the havoc of consequences they produce. Yeah, that's the shit show I'm really based on a scan of headlines. Yeah, I'll take a look. I actually have Navarro's like court listener bookmarked. So I'll have to take a look at that and see what the old. Do we know if he's one of the unindicted co-conspirators? Yeah, Navarro, Val. Yep, Navarro. I'm okay, but I ended up. Oh man, Paul. Oh, oh, I hate that. I hate that. It's traumatizing. But it's so easy to do, unfortunately. Yeah, so Navarro is going to jail for 60 days for contempt of Congress. And I just don't know if he is he certainly does. Well, he fits many of the descriptors, especially given his Green Bay sweep and all that bullshit. And then whatever he had, I don't know what his role was on January 6th itself. I really don't. I don't recall that. So I'm not sure. Oops, did I just lose my headphones? No, I guess I didn't. Yeah, the 30 page 36 page report. I have that pulled up too. Wait, hold on. In fact, that's probably better than this. Hold on. The 36 page report. I have it. I have it. I have it. And then tonight, here we go. Wait. Oh, well then that's one thing. I gotta read that too. Okay, hold on. I got a couple things to read for you. Hold on. Don't leave me. What am I doing? Oh yeah, Navarro report on oops. Oh, oh. I had it. Oh, here we go. A dare, 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 dare. Well, 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 well. God damn it, where is it? God damn it. God damn it, man. Okay, where is it? Give me that thing. Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay, no, Epic Times. I'm not pulling you up, okay? I really thought I had this report. Here we come, walking down the street. Where is it? That's that report. I want the other report. I want the other report. Oh, well, that's a good. God, I just love all these little websites. Okay, wait. Let me actually hold on. Don't leave me. Don't leave me. Don't leave me. Nope, that's not it. Where's the GD report? Garrett Ziegler. Oh, also, Peter Navarro has a little friend, and his little friend is named Garrett Ziegler. Yes. So let me pull up first. Wait. God damn it. Oh, here it is. No, that's not it. Nope. 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 What did I just? Oh wait, might be it. Oh, here it is. Okay, sorry. It says untitled. Okay, so this is the report from Benny Thompson from the J6 committee. And I think this is supposed to be the specific section dealing with Navarro. Okay, good. Here we go. This is when they were charged. All right. Are you all settled in? Does everybody have a soda or a drink? Good thing I showered first. Any such report failed at that time to do what it was supposed to do. If more than propaganda does not merit attention, sing another monkey song. Higher, better use. True, 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 true. Big ups to folks living in the cold ass states. Seriously. Where did big ups come from? That's the first time I heard it was in the Canadian convoy. I understand your comment, Waiting didn't use that excuse. It is huge, actually. Siegfried, very good call out. Paul, these are the moments that try men's souls, and let me tell you about it. So crack on, McDuff. That's fantastic. All right, let's read this. This is what Jan 6 said about Peter Navarro. So I don't think I've actually read this. So there you go. Oh, excuse me. All right, submitted the following. The Select Committee to investigate January 6th attack on the United States Capitol, having considered this report, reports favorably thereon and recommends that the report be approved. Let me just make sure. Resolved that Peter K. Navarro and Daniel Scavino Jr. shall be found in contempt of Congress for failure to comply with congressional subpoenas. That pursuant to this thing, the Speaker of the House of Representatives shall certify the report of the Select Committee to investigate the January 6th attack, detailing the refusal of Peter K. Navarro to produce documents or appear for a deposition before the Select Committee to investigate the January 6th attack, as directed by a subpoena to the United States Attorney for the District of Columbia, to the end that Mr. Navarro be proceeded against in the manner and form provided by law. I was going to make up a word, prescribed, or replace it. Okay. Resolved that pursuant to this thing and that thing and the other thing, detailing the refusal of Daniel Scavino Jr. Oh my goodness. Oh my lord. Who's an accessory to crime, to produce documents or appear for a deposition before the Select Committee to investigate the January 6th attack on the United States Capitol as directed by subpoena. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, diddy, blah, diddy, blah, 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 blah. Okay, let's see if there's anything really juicy in here. I hate Peter Navarro. I hate Peter Navarro. Ooh. Yeah, let's do this report. I mean, we pretty much know what's in his report. The court ruled in favor. Oh, wait, what? Jack Smith Twitter X has to release to him, right? Though, Jim? To him? Yeah. Okay. Hold on. I'm gonna move this because I need to read it and just kind of read it. Wah, wah, wah. Thank you. We are now processing. Okay, here we go. Okay, purpose and summary. January 6th, a violent mob attempted to impede Congress's constitutional and statutory mandate to count the electoral votes in the 2020 presidential election and launched an assault on the United States Capitol complex that resulted in multiple deaths, physical harm to more than 140 members of law enforcement, and terror and trauma among staff, institutional employees, and press. In response, the House adopted House Resolution 503, establishing Select Committee, investigating the facts. Inquiry includes examination. Okay, Peter K. Navarro, or as I like to call him, Smeagol, because he looks like Smeagol. According to published reports, Peter K. Navarro, a White House trade advisor, worked with Stephen K. Bannon and others to develop and implement a plan to delay Congress's certification. See, this is why this is important. He must be pooping his pants. He's going to go to jail forever. Or he's going to flip. He's going to flip. And ultimately change the outcome of the November 2020 presidential election. In November 2021, Mr. Navarro published in Trump Time a book in which he described this plan as the Green Bay Sweep and stated that it was designed as the last best chance to snatch a stolen election from the Democrats' jaws of deceit. In a later interview about his book, Mr. Navarro added that former President Trump was on board with the strategy, as were more than 100 members of Congress. Previously, Mr. Navarro had publicly released on his website a three-part report dubbed the Navarro Report, repeating many claims of purported fraud in the election that have been discredited in public reporting by state officials and by courts. On February 9, 2022, Chairman Benny Thompson signed a subpoena for documents and testimony and transmitted it along with a cover letter and schedule to Mr. Navarro. The subpoena required that Mr. Navarro produce responsive documents not later than February 23, 2022, and that Mr. Navarro appear for a deposition on March 2, 2022. When Select Committee staff emailed Mr. Navarro on February 9, 2022, asking whether he would accept service and had an attorney, Mr. Navarro replied only, yes, no counsel, executive privilege. Oh, is there a film about Bob Marley? Wait, what? Yeah, I've been saying it forever. I was just looking. I think it's Jamaican, and then maybe. Wait, say what? No, I don't. Oh, Big Ups. Is it a Jamaican thing, Pert? Oh, I had not heard that. I don't, yeah, I'd only heard that idiot from Canada say it. But I know more people say it than just him. But I thought it was good. Thank you. Thank you for that. Thank you for the clarification. Okay, here we go. When he said yes, no counsel, executive privilege. Select Committee staff then emailed the subpoena to Mr. Navarro. Within hours of receiving the subpoena, Mr. Navarro released a public statement that clearly indicated he had no intention of complying with the Select Committee subpoena, while also acknowledging that he had already publicly released information that is relevant to the Select Committee's investigation in his book. And here he quotes, President Trump has invoked executive privilege, and it is not my privilege to waive. The Select Committee should negotiate any waiver of the privilege with the President and his attorneys directly, not through me. I refer this tribunal to Chapter 21 of In Trump Time for what is in the public record about the Green Bay Sweep Plan to ensure election integrity. Buy it on Amazon today. Yeah, he didn't add the Amazon part, I did. Okay. Mr. Navarro also appeared on national television on February 10th, 2022, discussing subjects that were the focus of the Select Committee subpoena to him. On February 24th, 2022, Select Committee staff contacted Mr. Navarro via email about his failure to produce documents by the February 23rd deadline in the subpoena. In the same email, staff reminded Mr. Navarro about the date for his deposition and notified him of its location within the U.S. Capitol campus. Staff also requested that Mr. Navarro contact the U.S. Capitol, contact the Select Committee for further details about the deposition, or alternatively, to notify the Select Committee if he did not plan to appear for deposition testimony. On February 27, 2022, Mr. Navarro contacted Select Committee staff and said that, quote, President Trump has invoked executive privilege in this matter, and it is neither my privilege to waive or Joseph Biden's privilege to waive, end quote. Mr. Navarro did not provide any evidence that former President Trump had ever invoked executive privilege with respect to any documents in Mr. Navarro's personal possession or any testimony that Mr. Navarro could provide. Oh, it's called One Love? Okay, I'm going to take a look for that. I wonder who's playing. I hope it's his family members. Select Committee staff responded the same day and explained that there are areas of inquiry that do not implicate, quote, any executive privilege concerns at all. Select Committee staff further informed Mr. Navarro that he could make executive privilege objections during his deposition and that he must do so on a question-by-question basis to enable the Select Committee to better understand his objections and, if necessary, take any additional steps to address them. Select Committee staff then asked Mr. Navarro again whether he intended to appear for his deposition on March 2nd, as required by the subpoena. Later the same day, Mr. Navarro responded to the Select Committee's email correspondence. Instead of saying whether he intended to appear for his deposition, Mr. Navarro asked, quote, will this event be open to the public and the press? Select Committee staff responded that it would not be open to the press, that it would be a staff-led deposition, which members of the Select Committee may also join and in which they may participate. Select Committee staff asked about Mr. Navarro's document production and offered to find a new date for the deposition within a reasonable time if Mr. Navarro had a scheduling conflict on March 2nd. Mr. Navarro did not respond to that offer, but the next day sent the Select Committee an email saying that he had, quote, been clear in my communications on this matter. and that it is incumbent upon the committee to directly negotiate with President Trump and his attorneys regarding any and all things related to this matter. What a dick. He is such a dick, which we all knew. It's not like we didn't know. Reread 30 days to 1 year for each count. So apparently mandatory minimum of 60 if not concurrent. So that's what will be decided. Okay. Thank you. Oh. On February 28th, 2022, the White House counsel's office issued a letter to Mr. Navarro regarding the Select Committee subpoena. The letter stated, quote, "In light of the unique and extraordinary nature of the matters under investigation, President Biden has determined that the assertion of executive privilege is not in the national interest and therefore is not justified with respect to particular subjects within the purview of the Select Committee." The letter further noted that President Biden, accordingly, has decided not to assert executive privilege with respect to the testimony of Mr. Navarro regarding those subjects, or with respect to any documents he may possess that bear on them. Further, the letter stated, "For the same reasons underlying his decision on executive privilege, President Biden has determined that he will not assert immunity to preclude Mr. Navarro from testifying before the Select Committee." On March 1st, 2022, Select Committee staff sent another email to Mr. Navarro about his appearance for testimony as required by the subpoena. Once again, Select Committee staff reminded Mr. Navarro that there are topics that the Select Committee believes it can discuss with him without raising any executive privilege concerns at all, including but not limited to questions related to his public three-part report about purported fraud in the November 2020 election and the plan he described in his book called In Trump Time. Oh, sorry, The Green Bay Sweep. Whoopsie, I didn't know it was a book. I thought that was the plan. Select Committee staff told Mr. Navarro again that if there were any specific questions that raised executive privilege concerns, he could assert his objections on the record and on a question-by-question basis. Select Committee staff also provided Mr. Navarro with information regarding the time and location of his deposition. Mr. Navarro did not respond to the March 1st email from the Select Committee staff. He has failed to produce documents or appear for his scheduled deposition by the deadlines in the February 9, 2022 subpoena. Rather than appear for his deposition or respond directly to the Select Committee, Mr. Navarro issued a public statement regarding his deposition. Mr. Navarro predicted that his interactions with the Select Committee would be judged by, quote, "the Supreme Court where this case is headed." Mr. Navarro, however, never filed any case seeking relief from his responsibilities to comply with the Select Committee subpoena. In United States v. Bryan, the Supreme Court emphasized that the subpoena power is a public duty, which every person within the jurisdiction of the government is bound to perform when properly summoned. The court recently reinforced this clear obligation by stating that when Congress seeks information needed for intelligent legislative action, it unquestionably remains the duty of all citizens to cooperate. The Contempt of Congress statute makes clear that a witness summoned before Congress must appear or be deemed guilty of a misdemeanor, excuse me, Okay. Oh, here we go. A fine of up to 100,000 and imprisonment for up to 1 year. Mr. Navarro's refusal to comply with the Select Committee subpoena in any way represents willful default under the law and warrants referral to the United States Attorney for the District of Columbia for prosecution, blah, blah, blah. Because of Colt, but also because of who he is. Whoops, wait a minute. I have a dumb question. So would we rather have Trump as a nominee than say Haley because he's probably going to jail, or is it sketchier to have him because of the cult? I think it's a good question. In my opinion, it's sketchier to have Mango Unchained as the nominee due to the cult. Squeal, squeal. Because of the cult, but also because of who he is and how he behaves. Yeah, I just don't. And the thing is they. So one thing that people don't or don't really know about, I guess, or they know very little about, is the fuckery that Mike Lindell and his merry band of buttheads did in the 3 years since, or 4 years since the election, or 3 years. So what they've been doing, literally, is going from state to state, from county to county, not even state to state. They have connections in every county, not in the necessarily in all of the county offices, not in the county offices, but then also, in just like organization through Cause of America. That is where Lindell kind of partnered and executes a ground game around connection with county election officials. You know what I mean? Like Doug Frank has probably visited every county recorder, whoever it is, county clerk, to talk about their election systems, or at least tried to. So I have a lot of concerns about in whatever information they've been able to glean over the last 3 years about election systems, and I would not take for granted that they would be the ones to figure out. Okay, so let me just say something. I don't want any mention of like people that have actively engaged with people who want my head cut off and me silenced. And if any of the people who are from the convoy have sat in on spaces where they've discussed me or my family or Jim or whoever, those people are actively trying to silence me. And they're not the usual trolls, and they're not chuds. They're fucking bad people. So Baldy, who has sat in those spaces, who lets Taylor, no one has come to me from that group who claimed they were my friends in Weed Tifa, except for Max, to say, we've got your back. So I don't want to promote unless you come and DM me or fucking email me and tell me that you don't agree. I don't know why I would give you any positive attention whatsoever. Sorry. I don't give a flying fuck about Glory Beef, about the corner, about any of those assholes. So find it. Find, same with Boss Money was in there the other night. Fucking Jamie Eggs was in there the other night. I don't know what's wrong with you people. And I haven't said shit. And you can say, I didn't know. Okay, great. I'll give you another chance. Come and apologize. Or don't. I don't give a shit. That's why I blocked you all. Because I don't want to see your shit. Oh my God, I'm sorry. I'm just like, I'm on a low end of the bell curve, and I get every fucking day, I get like little fucking chip away reminders. And I'm just trying to do my shit. I'm just trying to keep my head up, move forward, spend the last, whatever time. And that's all I'm trying to do. Sorry. I really am sorry. I didn't choose this. I didn't choose that to happen. I got taken advantage of and tricked by someone who pretended to be my friend, Taylor. And I am trying to move on from it, but every time I fucking turn around, I get reminded. So anyway, it's not that big a deal. It really isn't. It's just an app. It's just an app. But forgive me if I don't share the same enthusiasm that you do for some of these folks. Because I feel a little bit like they've listened, they've heard them. They've heard them talk about me. And they haven't said, God, Lolo, what the fuck's going on? They haven't said shit. Okay, which is fine. Again, it's fine. But don't act like you're going to be my friend or I'm going to like go out of my way. I'm not. I leave you alone. I block you so you don't have to see me and I don't have to see you. But then it comes up. Anyway, I really am sorry. That's such a me, like, personal bullshit thing. Just caused a lot of hurt, okay? It caused a lot of hurt. It really hurt me. It really hurt my feelings. It hurt my daughter's feelings because she thought those people were kind of my friends too. And I'm not saying that you have to be my friend. I don't give a shit. But please do not talk. Do not act like you're my fucking friend. Anyway. Okay. I know. I know. It's dumb. This is dumb. This is dumb. Okay, let's read about Dan Scavino because he's a real, I mean, talk about people that got real problems. Dan Scavino, 99 problems, but Pink MAGA isn't one. Okay. All right. Sorry. Again, I am very sorry. That was uncalled for. All right. Whatever. You know, I'm working hard out here and I'm trying to do the right thing and I'm not doing enough and I'd like to do more and it's just hard. Sometimes it's just hard. Okay. Here we go. Dan Scavino, Junior. Oh my God. Senior must be embarrassed. According to many published reports, Daniel Scavino Jr., a longtime employee of former President Trump, was responsible for social media and communication strategy for the former president. When was this written? Because if this was written, like, when was this written? Oh, I don't even want to lose it. Now I can't remember when it was written. Because if it was written before, well, it was obviously written before the latest news came out about Dan Scavino and the fact that he's like, he's like who was in the room at the time, you know what I mean? The timestamps of the phones and all that shit. And so I'm really interested to see like what his fucking deal is with that. All right, let's see. Mr. Scavino reportedly attended several meetings with the president in which challenges to the election were discussed. Mr. Scavino also tracked social media on behalf of President Trump, and he did so at a time when sites reportedly frequented by Mr. Scavino suggested the possibility of violence on January 6th. The Select Committee therefore has reason to believe that Mr. Scavino may have had advance warning about the potential for violence on January 6th. Mr. Scavino did not only work as a White House official, he separately promoted activities designed to advance Mr. Trump's success as a presidential candidate. Yeah, can't you not work on the campaign and in the White House? I thought there were rules against that. He continued to do so after the 2020 election, promoting activities designed to reverse the outcome of a lost election. Mr. Scavino's public statements and reported conduct make clear the relevance of his testimony and documents for the Select Committee's investigation. On October 6, 2021, Chairman Thompson signed a subpoena for documents and testimony and transmitted it along with the cover letter and schedule to Mr. Scavino. On October 8, 2021, U.S. Marshals served the subpoena at Mar-a-Lago, Mr. Scavino's reported place of employment, and to Ms. Susan Wiles, who represented herself as the chief of staff to former President Trump and as authorized to accept service on Mr. Scavino's behalf. Oh, I want a Susan whatever. Oh, Hatch Act. Yeah, I guess it's not. I guess that's the point, is that it's not a very powerful law. Well, because it didn't have to be. Because people didn't act like this. The subpoena required that Mr. Scavino produce responsive documents not later than October 21st, 2021. Ooh, they got on him fast. And that Mr. Scavino appear for a deposition on October 28th, 2021. Subsequent communications between counsel for Mr. Scavino and Chairman Thompson, however, did not result in Mr. Scavino's agreement to appear for testimony or produce documents. Well, he's doing it now. Mr. Scavino's public statements and reported conduct make clear the relevance of his testimony and documents for the Select Committee's investigation. On October 6, 2021, Chairman Thompson signed a subpoena for documents and testimony and transmitted it along with the cover letter and schedule to Mr. Scavino. On October 8, 2021, U.S. Marshals served this subpoena at Mar-a-Lago, Mr. Scavino's reported place of employment. Oh, wait, did I read that again? Oh, God. Did I read that over? I'm so dumb. I'm so sorry. Attempting. Well, do I deserve any attention? No. Attempting to reach an accommodation with Mr. Scavino, Chairman Thompson granted multiple extensions for the deposition and production of documents. For Mr. Scavino's request for an extension, the chairman deferred the document production deadline to October 28th, and the deposition to November 4th. And then he moved it to November 4th and the 12th, and then he moved it to the 15th and the 19th of November. And guess what? He never showed up. Yeah, I just don't think they are going to put him in prison. I think they're just going to put him in like a. Oh. Now, you know who's going to go to prison? Everybody else. Nauta. Maybe not De Oliveira. Maybe not the other guy from Mar-a-Lago. But, you know, I don't know. And I don't know about Susan. How does Secret Service? Well, here's the thing. I figured this out, Pert. I'm glad you asked. Let me tell you how it's going to work. You have 3 shifts of 8 hours for your detail, and they have to stay there and guard him. That's what it is. It's this easy peasy. It's just a job. You're just there for 8 hours. It means you need more people, but I think it's worth it for democracy. Oh, you're right. It has to be prison. Otherwise, yeah, see, I do come back to that too. I wonder. Also, another thing that happened today is Judge McAfee in Georgia, what did he do? He said he would hear concerns or whatever the motion is against Fani Willis and the other prosecutor, and the allegations from Mike Roman of all people, who's in very big trouble, right? Mike Roman's in huge trouble. It is uncharted waters. You're right, Jen. That's such a great reminder. That's not something we've had to do. It could be. Yeah, it could definitely be. I could see somewhere like, you know, you have those little air bases up in New England and shit like that. I know, if we make laws, there won't. You're right. So true. But I think, yeah, see, that's the thing. You just have a guard. You have a couple guards every 8 hours, you know, like Hannibal Lecter. What's the problem? I know, he doesn't need to be at a funeral. It's cheaper in prison, yeah. So I think they'll find a way. Now, they have to vet the right people to be his Secret Service agents. So I don't think I would give Tony Ornato the job, if I was going to be honest. But, you know, could be wrong. Oh, let me go back to, whoopsie. Let me go back and read this a little more and see what's happening over here. I know. Whoops, what did you say? Of course, he didn't really need or want to be there. Yeah, no, he didn't. Yeah. I guess that was a mess today, that whole E. Jean Carroll. You know, it's really nice. All the women that are involved in, you know, not that men aren't great, but all the women who are involved in taking down authoritarianism, it's so heartening, right? You've got, you know, on the litigation side, bringing litigation, you've got E. Jean Carroll and you've got Stormy Daniels, you know, who put themselves out there for, you know, all of the slings and arrows. And then you've got the women of kind of justice, you know, with Fani Willis and Letitia James and Tanya Chutkin and all. I mean, Beryl Howe. I think Beryl Howe's a woman. I mean, like, it's just amazing. Makes them feel more invested. Yeah, I do. I think we deserve it. I know it's wrong, and there are things like the Geneva Convention. You know, I get it. But can we just have one exception? to the Geneva Convention. Can't we just have one single exception? All right, here we go. Okay, so that was all his like deadline bullshit, right? There's just some really great women who are really doing the work, and there are great men too, but there are really some stars out there that we're grateful. Yeah. All right, let's see what trouble lay ahead. Oh, and then it was, oh my God, and then it went from November 29th to December 1st, and then following the U.S. Supreme Court's denial of a stay in the Trump v. Thompson, the chairman offered Scavino an additional opportunity to indicate his intent to cooperate with the investigation and comply with the subpoena. February 8th, Mama Bears. I know, I used to think those were kind of silly, but you're right. Yeah. All right, let's see. Despite all these extensions, to date, Mr. Scavino has not produced a single document. Well, I think that's changed now, but we should find out. Nor has he appeared for testimony. Well, I guess he did. Did he end up appearing? Wait, did he? Yeah, no, they should not be in lockup together. Please. Tell me no one is going to be locked up together. Like, this is not a Goodfellas remake, is it? Okay. I hope not. Okay, so let's see here. So he hasn't produced any documents and he's a terrible person, but he wrote him a letter. White House counsels issued a letter. Wait, the White House counsel's office issued a letter to Mr. Scavino's attorney regarding the Select Committee subpoena. That letter stated President Biden has determined that an assertion of executive privilege is not in the national interest and therefore is not justified with respect to particular subjects within the purview. Okay, so he sent them the same letter saying, you don't have any privilege, but you butthole. This is, no, see this is the report. Sorry, thank you, Siegfried. This is a very good question. This is the report that was generated by Benny Thompson and the January 6th committee on Peter Navarro and Dan Scavino for avoiding their, for denying, ignoring the subpoenas to testify in front of their committee. So it doesn't even get into the merits of how poopy they are as people. It's not even, I don't think anyone's actually even brought any charges unless Navarro is an unindicted co-conspirator. Yeah. Military prison. I know. I mean, I'm not all for prisons either, by the way, but again, I guess I'll make an exception. The Select Committee, basically the background that the Select Committee is really legit. You can't ignore it. Let's see if there's anything else. This might be good. Let me see if we can go to cut to the chase here. According, fraudulent, an assistant. Okay, right. I want to make sure I don't miss any little snuggets. Okay, here we go. As Assistant to the President and Director of Trade and Manufacturing Policy, Mr. Navarro's role in government was to assist the President in formulating and implementing trade policy. Former President Trump created Mr. Navarro's position by Presidential Executive Order number 13797 in 2017. Oh, are you kidding? Oh, God. Okay, hold on. Hold the phone, Joan. Hold the phone, Joan. Hold the phone, Joan.
Have your head stuck in the sand like most Republicans. And I think that's going to require somebody who isn't bought and paid for, a businessman, not a politician.
Businessman.
Anybody heard of that?
I'm a businessman. I'm a businessman.
And that's why I was in this.
Oops, sorry. Oh, come back.
Was in this race, but okay. I'll tell you, the people of Iowa spoke loud and clear last night, and I'm a big believer that we, the people, create a government that is accountable to us, not the other way around. Yeah. That we, the people, choose who leads this country. And so we heard we, the people, last night, and that is why last evening
You
I
quit.
met my friend here. We met in person, and I
You
said I
quit like
would
a
endorse Donald J.
motherfucker.
Trump, President of the United States, and
I
do
quit.
everything in my power
I
to
quit.
lead us to victory in this war. It is a 1776 moment right now. That's where we live right now.
He's a politician.
You want to know what does it mean to be
He's
a
a
Republican today? It means we believe in the ideals of 1776. Ideals like freedom and merit and the pursuit of excellence. That you
And
get ahead in this
rad
country,
trad.
not on the color of your skin, but on the content of your character and your contributions. And affirmative action and DEI. We are done with the nonsense. Send it back home. It means you believe in the rule of law. And I say this as the kid of legal immigrants to this country. That means your first act of entering this country cannot break the law. And that is why we need to use our military to secure our own southern border in this country. That's what it means to stand for the rule of law in the United States of America.
He wants to
It means the
bomb
people we elect to
Mexico.
run the
He
government needs
actually
to be
said
the
that. I
ones
need
who
to pull
actually
that
run the
interview he
government,
did
not the
with,
shadow government
he
in
did
the
an
deep
interview
state
with,
that runs the show today. This man
Mike
is going to get in
Pompeo.
there this time around and actually
No,
shut
Bill Barr.
down that deep state. Not messing around
Good, sell
this
mustard.
time anymore. That's how we win this war in this country.
That's cute.
And the way we're actually going to do
cute,
this in
Jim.
the long run and win this time around is with elections
adorable.
we need to secure in this country for the long run. You want to know what needs to happen in this country?
Here to
Single day
say,
voting
see this
on
man, the
election day
Titanic?
as a
I'm
national
getting on
holiday
board.
with paper ballots, government issued ID to match the voter
He
file,
doesn't have workable
and English as the
ideas. I've
sole
listened
language
to
that appears on a ballot.
Yeah.
And I'm
He's
confident this
not gonna
man
play.
will be the one to get us there. And
Don't
this
touch
is
him.
how we get our country back.
He doesn't want him to
Not
touch
black
him.
or white.
I'm gonna get
It's
you there
deeper
right
than that.
now.
These are the ideals of the American Revolution. And
He
you know what?
loves
We
that
do
there's
have
another
some
racist
enemies that we
standing
need
up
to
there
defeat
with
on
him.
the other side, but we have challenges to address
He's like,
in
look,
our own party right here at home.
look,
So you know what? If you
my
want somebody
friend.
who's going to
He's a
foist
racist
onto you to
too.
use your social media account, you want to use a
He also thinks
driver's
single mothers
license
are
to
the
do it,
reason
to
this
have the
country
right to
is
use the
so,
internet.
because
This
we're
man's not
paying
your man.
single
There's another
mothers
candidate
to
in this
not
race
have
who'll
a
do
man
that
in the
for you.
home.
It's Nikki Haley.
He said that.
You want to cut Social Security, you want to cut Medicare, you want to cut
You
veterans
said you
benefits
would,
so we can fork
actually.
over more money to Ukraine so some kleptocrat can buy a bigger house? Vote for Nikki Haley, not this man right here. But if you want to actually
I
put
hate
an
to say
agenda
this,
that puts
but
Americans first, to say that the moral
the
obligation
Republicans
of your leaders is to the citizens
intentionally, I
of this
guess, have
country,
fucked this
not
up.
another one. There's not a better choice
They're
left in
pushing
this
more
race
people into
than this
MAGA.
man right here. And that is why I am asking you to do the right thing as New
He
Hampshire
is happy.
and to vote for
He is
Donald J.
happy.
Trump as your
He thinks
next
this guy's a
president.
winner.
Because we're not working with a lot of
He's
time
not.
here.
He
If our
won't
kids
play.
are in high school
He
before we
hardly
get this
played
right, we
in
don't have a
rooms in
country
Iowa.
left. That's what it means. We've been
Our
celebrating
whole
our
state votes by mail.
diversity
Suck it.
and our differences
I can't wait till he
for
comes
so
to
long that
California.
we
'cause I know
forgot
he's gonna
all
do
of the ways
I
that
can't
we
wait.
are the
Dino
same
will be
as
appearing.
Americans,
I gotta find
bound
Ivan
by that
Reitman.
common set of
I
ideals
gotta find out
that
if Ivan
set
Reitman
this
is still in
country into
California.
motion. We
I will
believe
show
those
up where he
ideals still exist. This man is going to be your next president to revive them. E pluribus unum. From
This
many,
is all his
one.
fucking speech.
And you know how we're doing it? We're
He's
doing it
so
by
bad.
speaking the truth at every step of the way.
You're
There
not.
are two genders
Here
in
we
this
go.
country.
Here we go. Here
Period.
We go. Here
That
we
is the
go.
truth.
This is a horrible part of his speech.
Fossil fuels are a requirement for human prosperity. Drill, frack, burn coal, embrace nuclear energy. Reverse racism is racism. An open border is not a border. Parents determine the education of their children. The nuclear family is the greatest form of governance known to mankind. Capitalism lifts us up from poverty. There are
He
three
is
branches
so
of government in
happy.
the United States, not four. And the U.S. Constitution is the strongest and greatest guarantor of freedom in human history. That is the truth. We fight for the truth. We stand up for the truth. That is what won us the American Revolution. That is what reunited us after the Civil War. That is what won us 2 world wars and the Cold War. That is what still gives hope to the
birds
free
aren't real.
world.
So,
And if we can revive
fun.
that dream over group identity and victimhood and grievance,
oh my God.
then nobody in the world, not a nation, not a
Nobody
corporation,
in
not
the
a virus, not China is
world.
going to defeat us.
Oh no, you didn't
That
call it a
is what
virus. You
American
called it a pandemic.
exceptionalism is all
Come on,
about.
admit it.
That is what
Don't
we are
be
going
shy
to
now,
revive
debate.
to, yes,
Don't be
make
shy
America
now.
great again. Vote for this man right here in the New Hampshire primary.
And
God
me.
bless
Oh wait,
you
not
and
me.
your families, and may God bless our United States of America. Thank you, New Hampshire. It's good to see you guys. We're coming back and winning this in a landslide. We will not stop until we get this job done. Thank you all. God bless you and your family.
Let's give peace a chance. He's like, don't kiss me. Don't kiss me. Stop moving in. Kiss, 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 kiss. Oh my God. What the hell is he doing? What the fuck's going on?
Thank you. Thank you. Wow, how was that? Pretty good, right? That was
I
pretty
just wanna
good.
see
And
what
he's
he's
a
gonna say,
fantastic
Karen.
guy. And he's really, he's got something that's very special because he
Yeah,
started off
Paul.
with a Zippo and
I
he's got,
can't
he
in
ended up
good
very
conscience
strong. He did a great
recommend
job.
that
I
you
was
quit
actually
that right
surprised
now, although I am
when he
not a
called because he
doctor.
was doing well.
So
And it's an honor to have his endorsement. He's
I'm
going to be
afraid I'm with
working
you
with
there,
us
my
and he'll be
friend.
working with us for a long time.
How did this awful thing happen? I
Thank
mean,
you.
we're not staying. Don't worry, we're not staying.
And now for sort of the
Get
opposite,
it
in my
on.
opinion, as you know, Nikki Haley in particular
I mean, that would be
is counting
rough.
on the Democrats and liberals to infiltrate your Republican primary. You know that that's what's happening. You
Yeah,
have
that's California.
a group of people coming in that are not
Hey, man.
Republicans, and
Hey, man.
it's artificially boosting her numbers here. Although we're still leading her by a lot. You
A
know,
lot.
as you
Oh, but you know
I
what?
watched her
Okay,
speech last night.
let
I
me
thought it
tell
was
you.
inappropriate. But because it's bad for
It's inappropriate.
unity, it's bad for the party, what she said. But you'd almost think she won. She came in third, and she lost to not a particularly great candidate, obviously, as you've seen. She lost to
Wait, DeSantis
somebody
came in
that
second?
beat her by about 2.5 points, Ron
Really?
DeSanctimonious. So,
I didn't know that.
I'll tell you, we have these two people. We really got to get back on.
Yeah, shut up. All right, anyway, as I was saying, let's go back. Shut up. Shut up, Dawn. Nobody cares. We just wanted to hear what your little simp had to say. Okay, let me get back to this, okay? Because we have source documents to read. We don't have time for your nonsense. We don't have time for your nonsense, Donnie. His face is leaching into his hair. And you know, the thing about it is that I know the memes must be flying easily. Oh my Lord. Okay, back to this scintillating document. Okay, Okay. This is all this. Oh, wait, here we go. Mr. Navarro led was to defend and serve American workers and domestic manufacturers while advising the president on policies to increase economic growth, decrease the trade deficit, and strengthen the U.S. manufacturing and defense industrial bases. Well, you know what? None of those sound like election interference. Additionally, the office's responsibilities included advising the president on innovative strategies and promoting trade policies consistent with the president's stated goals, serving as a liaison between the White House and the Department of Commerce, and undertaking trade-related special projects as requested by the president, and helping to improve the performance of the executive branch's domestic procurement and hiring policies, including through the implementation of the policies described in Executive Order 13788 of 2017 Buy American and Hire American. How's that going? In March of 2020, President Trump also signed Executive Order 13911, which named, isn't this interesting? April 18th, 2017. 13911, which named Mr. Navarro as the National Defense Production Act Policy Coordinator, which gave the Office of Trade and Manufacturing Policy authority to address potential shortfalls in pandemic-related resources, such as ventilators and personal protective equipment. Now, where have I heard that before? And when? She said. Will the hearings and the select committee on the mishandling of the COVID crisis come to Congress? I know we've got a lot. There's a lot of plates spinning, darling. I understand. But it might be nice if some of these motherfuckers got in big trouble for it, wouldn't it? Yeah, it's low R turnout because of low enthusiasm. They're not going to vote. And I'll tell you right now, if Trump isn't the nominee, which he is going to be the nominee, now I'm like convinced. They have done such a dump job on Nikki Haley that they turned her money into poison. And only Trump could turn money into poison. So there you go. So we better strap in, kids, and let's go. Actually, the thing about it, easily, good point. So the 7% is for Trump that Vivek got in Iowa last night. He got 50, right? So 57. He predicted he was going to beat DeSantis like by 50, 60 points. He only beat DeSantis by like 35 points. So Trump did not do as well in Iowa as he thought he was going to do. Is it important? No, but it's interesting. So I like data. Data is interesting. Okay. Additionally, okay, whatever. Blah. Trade related, helping to improve. Okay. Oh yeah. So he was in charge of, oh my God, all of the PPE and the Defense Production Act, which was a crucially important thing that could help us actually have an advantage during pandemics if we were able to redeploy private businesses to create needed materiel. So, it's a good thing. Anyway, the Select Committee does not seek documents or testimony from Mr. Navarro related to his official duties as a federal official. None of the official responsibilities of Mr. Navarro's positions included advising President Trump about the 2020 presidential election or the roles and responsibilities of Congress and the Vice President during the January 6th joint session of Congress. Nor did those official duties involve researching or promoting claims of election fraud. Nevertheless, after the 2020 presidential election, Mr. Navarro became involved in efforts to convince the public that widespread fraud had affected the election. Federal law did not allow Mr. Navarro to use his official office to attempt to affect the outcome of the election. Oh, the Hatch Act, yes. When Mr. Navarro engaged in these activities and other activities described below, thank you, oomph, he was acting outside the scope of his official duties. Womp womp. In December 2020, Mr. Navarro released a 3-part report on purported fraud in the election on his personal website. The chapters of the report titled Volume 1, The Immaculate Deception, Volume 2, The Art of the Steal, and Volume 3, because we didn't have any more clever left. Yes, President Trump won. Collectively referred to as the Navarro Report, discuss, among other things, disproven claims of alleged voter fraud and cite to sources such as Stephen Bannon's War Room, pandemic podcasts, and unsupported allegations from cases around the country that courts dismissed. In a press call on December 17, 2020, to announce his report, Mr. Navarro acknowledged that he wrote the report as a private citizen, and in doing so, wanted to address what he called outright fraud in the 2020 presidential election. Now, isn't that interesting? In a press call on December 17th, so in December, I can't remember what, I guess he didn't, that was what Trump tweeted about in the report, will be wild. So that was what, on the 19th of December? And then the ODNI report was due on the 18th of December in order to meet the 45 days in order for basically Trump to rerun the election. So yeah, Iowa. No. You're right. You're absolutely right. Thank you for bringing this up. Absolutely. It's only an intriguing data point. That is all it is. It's all it is. I put a pin in it so that I think about, like, how is he doing? But you're absolutely correct. Thank you. You're absolutely correct, Kurt. Okay, here we go. Whoops, where am I going? Where am I going and where have I been? Okay, okay, yeah. The Select Committee's investigation has revealed that the Navarro report was shared in whole or in part, oh, this is so good, with by individuals who made public claims about purported fraud in the election, including Professor John Eastman. John, that's not my bar, Eastman. Then White House Chief of Staff Mark Meadows. Mark is singing, he's singing, and you have to listen to everything he says. He's scared right now, and he's probably gonna die. Okay, he probably won't die. Okay, Mr. Navarro, wait. Okay, notably, then President Trump included a link to Volume 1 of the Navarro Report in the same tweet which he first announced that he would speak at a rally in Washington on January 6. Mr. Navarro has claimed that Mr. Trump himself had distributed Volume 1 of the report to every member of the House and Senate before January 6. Specific allegations contained in the Navarro report were also used as justification in attempts to convince state legislators to decertify their state's popular vote and appoint Trump-Pence Electoral College electors. And the report was cited in litigation that, if successful, would have resulted in a declaration that the vice president alone could decide which electoral college votes to count during the January 6 joint session. Mr. Navarro also reportedly worked with members of the Trump campaign's legal team to directly encourage state legislators to overturn the results of the 2020 election. On January 2nd, 2021, Mr. Navarro joined a call with Phil Klein. We're going to hear more about his name too. Rudy Giuliani, Professor John Eastman, John Lott Jr., then President Trump, and hundreds of state legislators. I remember this. During the call, Mr. Navarro discussed his report on voter fraud and told the state legislators, quote, "Your job, I believe, is to take action, action, action. The situation is dire." In that same call, Mr. Trump told the state legislators that they were the best chance to change the certified results of the presidential election in certain states because, quote, "You are the real power. You're more important than the courts. You're more important than anything because the courts keep referring to you, and you're the ones who are going to make the decision." What? In the days leading up to January 6, according to evidence obtained by the Select Committee, Mr. Navarro also encouraged Mark Meadows and possibly others to call Roger Stone to discuss January 6. When Roger Stone appeared to testify before the Select Committee and was asked questions about the events of January 6, he repeatedly invoked his Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. Mr. Navarro wrote about the Navarro Report and his efforts to change the outcome of the 2020 election in his recently published book, In Trump Time. In his book, Mr. Navarro described actions he took to affect the outcome of the election, including encouraging President Trump in the early November 2020 not to announce that he would seek election in 2024, because doing so would acknowledge that he had actually lost the 2020 presidential election. Mr. Navarro also wrote that he called Attorney General William Barr to ask that the Department of Justice intervene and support President Trump's legal efforts to challenge the results of the 2020 election, which Attorney General Barr refused to do. Mr. Navarro also wrote in his book that he kept a journal of post-election activities like those described above. Mr. Navarro also claimed credit for concocting a plan with Stephen Bannon to overturn the election results in various states, dubbed the Green Bay Sweep. In his book, Mr. Navarro described the Green Bay Sweep as, quote, "our last best chance to snatch a stolen election and keep President Trump in the White House for a second term." The plan was to encourage Vice President Pence, that was President of the Senate, to delay certification of the Electoral College votes during the January 6 joint session and send the election back to the state legislatures. Mr. Navarro's theory is similar to the theory that Professor John Eastman advocated before January 6 and that President Trump explicitly encouraged during his speech on the ellipse on January 6. On January 6, the day to implement the Green Bay Sweep, Mr. Navarro had multiple calls with Mr. Bannon, including during and after the attack on the U.S. Capitol. Mr. Navarro has stated that he believed his strategy, quote, "started flawlessly, but was thwarted when, quote, two things went awry: Vice President Pence's betrayal, and of course, the violence that erupted on Capitol Hill, which provided Vice President Pence and congressional leaders an excuse to abort the Green Bay Sweep." This information demonstrates Mr. Navarro's clear relevance to the Select Committee's investigation and provides the foundation for its subpoena for Mr. Navarro's testimony and document production. No shit. Snatch, squeal, prison. Okay, he's refused to comply. He's refused to comply. A subpoena has never been treated as an invitation to a game of hare and hounds. Supreme Court. If that were the case, then indeed the great power of testimonial compulsion, so necessary to the effective functioning of courts and legislatures, would be a nullity. We've often iterated the importance of this public duty, which every person within the jurisdiction of the government is bound to perform when probably summoned. Sounds a lot more, lot less serious when they say it in that voice. They sought testimony on topics and interactions. We're going to go over the no, President Biden is not going to give you privilege over any of your conversations, and that's it. Privilege belongs to this current president, and that's a thing. Let's see. I'm so sorry. I'm just like running through. You know what I want to know is I remember hearing the thing about I almost called him Alito, Justice Alito. I remember that injunction that he was working, I thought he was working with Ginny Thomas on some kind of injunction that would help. Like, I thought it was gonna protect their ability to run the not the Insurrection Act. I think it was martial law. I don't know if the Insurrection Act was going to be something. I guess it was. But yeah, I defer to smarter brains on that chain of events. Okay, so there's no executive privilege, not even if you bought it. There's no executive privilege, not even if you bought it. And Navarro, Smeagol's kind of out of money, right? He doesn't have a lot of money. Now, I did see him. Oh my God. I did see Smeagol on Bannon the other day. Bannon is basically telling him to calm the fuck down and shut up. This whole clip. I gotta find that. Oh, I wish I could remember it. Because it was really funny. Bannon was like, okay. So it was funny. I'll have to find it. Let's see if there's anything in here. I'm sorry, I'm running through this kind of fast. Okay, well, this is just about what happens when you don't. Let's just see what Danny's accused of doing. Mr. Scavino is uniquely positioned to illuminate the extent of knowledge and involvement of the former president, members of Congress, and other individuals and organizations in the planning and instigation. I mean, what's his motivation to flip? I'll find it. I'll find it, Siegfried. I'll find it. Because it was good. It wasn't long ago. It was just recently. And I was kind of surprised by it. I was like, wow. That's like, yeah, he is on the take. Totally. The same guy as Thomas. Oh, Harlan Crow. Alito's a Harlan Crow bitch. A Nazi. I don't know. Harlan Crow collects Nazi stuff, but then someone told me, and he's still an asshole. I don't know. I don't understand that story, but I'll agree that he's a total idiot regardless. And anyone who owns Nazi shit is weird. I'm sorry. That's just not right. Okay. Unless you're a museum. Get the fuck out. Yeah, Crow. That's right. Harlan Crow. I guess you have to have money with a name like Crow. I gotta have money because my name's Crow. People always making fun of my name. Yeah, I gotta have money because my name's Crow. I'm always to blame. Yeah, they say you like to eat crow. I said that doesn't make any sense. All right, so here we go. He knows everything about his brain. Mr. Scavino, wasn't Scavino a caddy to begin with? Wasn't he his golf caddy? Social media, social media, social media. See, I think we have much more information about what to do with she got taken to the cleaners is what she did, Siegfried. She paid too much for her goddamn haircut. The select committee, okay, here we go. Further, the select committee has reason to believe that Mr. Scavino was with then President Trump on January 5th and January 6th and was party to conversations regarding plans to challenge, disrupt, or impede the official congressional proceedings. See, this story is not over. Okay, this story is not over. Okay, EO 13848. All right. Mr. Trump to halt the violence, but Mr. Trump failed to take immediate actions or to immediately take actions to stop it. The select committee also has reason to believe that Mr. Scavino may have had advance warning of the possibility of violence on January 6th. Public reporting notes that Mr. Scavino had a history of monitoring websites where, in the weeks leading up to January 6th, users discussed potential acts of violence. Oh, like Parler? Is that it? Parler? Yeah, you're cool, easily. You're definitely among friends. And then just wait till we all try to do like voice typing. Scavino has testified. Yes. Okay. Well, do we know how hard he rolled though? Is that something we really, really know? Steve? Shooby-doo. I don't know. I hope so. I mean, he should. He has no reason not to. But, love of country or whatever. Indeed, Mr. Scavino frequently composed specific social media posts. Okay, so we're going to find out much more about Danny Boy. Oh, Danny Boy. The pie. Oh, like sushi. Oh, yikes. That's pretty tightly rolled there. Meow. Okay, wait, what? What's this juicy little snugget? Public reporting also notes that Mr. Scavino and his social media team had a history of monitoring websites, including the Donald.win, an online forum frequented by individuals who openly advocated and planned violence in the weeks leading up to January 6. In the summer of 2016, former President Trump himself engaged in a written question and answer session on a precursor to the Donald.win called R the Donald, which was a subreddit. At the time, the online Reddit, which had upward of 800,000 users, was banned by the online Reddit community of the Donald, which had upwards of 790,000, users, was banned by Reddit in mid-2020, after which it migrated to another online forum located at the Donald.win. Who set that up? I bet you Gal knows, and Clay and Tina and Jay Rants. Mr. Scavino reportedly amplified content from this community, while his social media team also interacted with the site's users. During the 2016 presidential campaign, quote, the team in the war room at Trump Tower was monitoring social media trends, where's Brad Parscale, including the Donald subreddit, and privately communicating with the most active users to seed new trends. Trump campaign staffers monitored Twitter and the Donald subreddit and pushed any promising trends up to social media director Dan Scavino, who might give them a boost with a tweet. Oh my God. He's why we can't have nice things too. In 2017, watch him appear on Fox. Trump tweeted a video of himself attacking CNN. The video had appeared on the Donald 4 days earlier. In 2019, Politico reported that Mr. Scavino regularly monitors Reddit with a particular focus on the pro-Trump The Donald channel. On December 19th, 2020, the same day Mr. Trump tweeted, big protest in D.C. on January 6th, there will be wild. Users on posts on the Donald.win began sharing specific techniques, tactics, and procedures for the assault on the Capitol. The ensuing weeks of communications on the site included information on how to use a flagpole as a weapon, how to smuggle firearms into DC, measurements for a guillotine, and maps of the tunnel systems under the Capitol building. On January 5th, 2021, a user on the Donald.win encouraged Mr. Trump supporters to be prepared to secure the Capitol building, claiming that there will be plenty of ex-military to guide you. Anything with proper punctuation, spelling, and without random caps was Scavino. It's so true. Let me see what's going on over here. Here we go. Shooby-doo. Yes, last week it was reported that the Twitter info and who tweeted what. Oh, this is so good, Steve. Was confirmed by Scavino. He has testified and it wasn't good. Oh, so true. Yeah, cheers. I love you guys. Don't pay any attention. It's okay. I've got a 3-month-old. Oh, Jim, you're getting like double dose grandpa year this year. That's for sure. Between the puppy and the baby. But all good stuff. All good stuff. Are you leaving? Are you leaving easily? Did I miss something? I'm so sorry. Um, let's see. Oh my gosh, my dog is so wanting. Oh wait. Hearing some dirt may come out on Nauta, but can't give out all the details. Maybe a week out. Wait, Walt, he wipes his ass. His code name was Wet Wipe. No, come on. That's not true. That's not true. It can't be true. Oh, stop it. Don't say those things, please. That is not correct. Let me see what if there's anything else in this document that's of any interest. So then what? Multiple other posts on the Donald made it clear that the U.S. Capitol was a target, with one poster writing that people should bring handcuffs and zip ties to D.C. so they could enact citizens' arrest of those officials who certified the election's results. Another post on the Donald.win was headlined, Most Important Map for January 6th, form a true line around the Capitol and the tunnels. Boy, they sure talked a lot about the tunnels. That post included a detailed schematic of Capitol Hill with the tunnels surrounding the complex highlighted. One thread posted on the Donald.win and pertaining to Mr. Trump's December 19, 2020 tweet reportedly received more than 5,900 replies and over 24,000 upvotes. The general consensus among the users on these threads was that Trump had essentially tweeted permission to disregard the law in support of him. For example, one user wrote, Trump can't exactly openly tell you to revolt. This is the closest he'll ever get. Just weeks before the January 6, 2021 attack on the U.S. Capitol, former President Trump shared content on Twitter that apparently originated on the Donald.win. On December 19th, former President Trump tweeted a video titled, Fight for Trump, Save America, Save the World. Oh my God, if you haven't seen the new video that he has, that a viewer, like one of his Q nuts, he plays it at his rallies now. It's like, if you guys remember, let me just make sure there's nothing. I don't really think there's that much. Okay, whatever. All right, sorry. Oh, my eyes are starting to water. Oh my God, what was I gonna say? God made Trump. Yeah. So this video, horrible. Grassley's in the hospital. Oh, I like it. I wonder if I guess Grassley hasn't testified. He would have made a big stink about that, wouldn't he have? Wouldn't he have? Yeah, that video of Trump is unhinged. And see, the thing is I saw kind of a depressing post yesterday from I guess it was like a Democrat voice, and they were like, it's never gonna work. We're never, here we are again. We're gonna do the same thing, blah blah blah, same thing. Well, yeah, that's what we do every 4 years, moron. You fucking galvanize and you vote and you make sure people know how to vote. It's so stupid. Get over yourselves. Jesus Christ. We have to get people out to vote. Turnout is going to be key, period. And I mean, at the end of the day, I want everyone to vote. If you want to vote for this dick bag, go ahead. I mean, I hope you don't win, because then we're all going to pay the price. Oh, he was embedded with the Canadian convoy. He wasn't physically, but he refers to them in his assets. Oh, sorry. I was working on something else with this guy. I didn't realize he wasn't part of that convoy. Or he was part of the convoy. Okay. What? I'm getting all these distracting little messages. Okay, I'm coming back. I remember when Cuba opened up their mental institutions and prisons and shipped them. Is that true? I don't remember that. I don't remember that. I remember when Reagan closed mental, like, hospitals for mental health in California when he was governor. Or I remember hearing about it. I was a little young. I was a young lady. Okay, well, actually, what I'm going to do is I didn't really plan on going live today. So I think, let me just see what else is, like, how far this goes. Don't panic. I'm not really, well, kind of like, oh yeah. Okay, let's read the rest of this because it's just the last details. I don't want to miss this. I will feel incomplete if we don't. Okay. Sorry. I kind of screwed up. That's my fault. Not my fault. Okay, true line around the Capitol. Okay, blah, blah, blah. October 16th from the Dan Scavino Jr. Alert happening now. Macon, Georgia, MAGA with Meridian. Vote Donald J. Trump. Okay. Okay. Charges of mail-in ballot fraud are rampant. I remember them talking about fucking ballot fraud in 2020. I mean, we all do. I am thrilled to be back in Georgia with thousands of proud, hardworking American patriots who are gathered together to ensure that we send David Perdue and Kelly Loeffler win the most important well, too bad. I mean, he has not won real, he has not yielded the political influence that he promised. So I don't know why the GOP doesn't go, get the fuck out of here. We'll live. They don't show, I'm going to tell you right now, his base, if the GOP had arranged it so that they had their candidate in this race for reals, they could have said to the third that are like weird about him, like, get over yourselves. We're not doing it. It's not good for the country. You know what I mean? Because the bottom line is if he's not on the ballot, they are not going to show up to vote. Period. Period. I'll eat my hat if we have huge turnout and he's not on the ballot. I will eat my fucking hat. Now, granted, it's going to be made of candy, but I will eat it. And bring back mental health. Bring mental health care. How about that? Do not bring back those institutions, right? Don't bring back what were considered mental hospitals and all those terrible things, because they weren't necessarily helping people. So let's find a way to help people. Yeah, that's right. That's when they started doing comic relief. That's right. Never pick a bitch on girls. Okay, so here we go. Let's see what else. I mean, come on, guys. I don't know. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. Be a part of history. Join the march. I mean, it was a big buildup. And the spontaneous liveness. Oh, yeah. The select committee has a legitimate interest in seeking information from Mr. Scavino about activities that were outside of his scope of responsibilities as a federal government official. It is beyond reasonable dispute that the stolen election narrative played a major role in motivating the violent attack on the Capitol. Violent writers' social media posts, contemporaneous statements on video, and filings in federal court provide overwhelming evidence of this. To take just a few examples, though there are many others, statements from individuals charged with crimes associated with the January 6th attack include, quote, I'm going to be there to show support for our president and to do my part to stop the steal and stand behind Trump where he decides to cross the Rubicon. Does that guy know what the cross the Rubicon really means? Trump is literally calling people to DC in a show of force. Militias will be there, and if there's enough people, they may fucking storm the buildings and take out the trash right here. Trump said it's going to be wild. It's going to be wild. He wants us to make it wild. That's what he's saying. He called us all the Capitol and he wants us to make it wild. Sir, yes, sir. Gentlemen, we're heading to DC. Track your shit. Sup, mama pups. Sup, mama pups. Hi, baby. I'm just finishing some reading. Yeah, I was just reading. I was just goofing. How's the New Doc Goofin. Actually, old Doc Goofin. Okay, so his promotion of the events, his participation in multiple conversations about challenging election, and as a reported president with then President Trump as the attack unfolded and its aftermath make his testimony essential. So he needs to get the fuck his butt in there, and I guess he already has. We were J Rance. We were going over the blah, 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 nice to have a brain. The Peter Navarro, because Peter Navarro is going to now be sentenced next week on the 25th. Thank you, for reminding us or telling us. We were going through the Wayback Machine in the hot tub time machine to look at the reason that Mr. Navarro is even facing any jail time. Why the shackles, Peter? Why the shackles? That was my favorite line. His line about shackles. They shackled me. They shackled me. That was my favorite. That was my favorite. Yeah. Here we go. We're going to go to the beach. It sounds so weird. It doesn't sound very good. There we go. I can turn it down a little bit. Yeah, anyway, that's why. That's why. So that's what we were doing. And then that man has no chill. Yeah, he has absolutely zero chill. Oh, both on the 25th. Okay. All right, great. Yeah. Roger Stone had his lawyer set up a 2020 Stop the Steal account 2 weeks before the 20th. Why 2 weeks before? Well, didn't Stop the Steal start like as a saying a little bit earlier than that? I mean, he was planning rallies and shit. Many moms at the school I went to were nurses in the state mental hospital, some doctors' kids also. Our city went downhill overnight. Jobs lost, people who needed supervision for mental health out. It's just terrible. I thought it was from 2016. Yeah, it was a rerun. You're right, Kurt. I just can't remember. I think there's some, is there controversy, perhaps? You have poison ivy? That's fucked up. I'm so sorry, Pepper. I am so sorry. That's bullshit. Do you have calamine lotion? You better get some calamine lotion. Get the calamine lotion. All right. What was I gonna say? Blur, blur, blur. I know, that is the worst. I know. Are you right-handed, Pepper? Are you right-handed? I'm so sorry. That's fucked up. Oatmeal. Oh, that's a good idea. Cortisone spray. That's a good idea. I love this. Trump was saying that. Yeah, because I think that I thought Roger Stone kind of coined that. Or Ali. That's it. Ali Alexander claims he did, right? Oh man, I'm so confused. There's too many. Poop! You do have calamine. Of course you do. You fucking rock. Wait, what? He really will shoot someone. Yeah. Yes! Jen! Yes! Oh God, I'm so sorry, Pepper. Okay, I'm sending. Oh, Benadryl gel, that works really well too. Good one, Siegfried. Oh, I love it. Ollie claims it. That's right, all the time. Well, I want you to know that I had the last interview with Ollie Alexander, before he was accused of child sexting, sexual abuse of a minor through sexting, I guess. I don't know what I think it was all social, like he was communicating with them electronically. I don't know if he's been accused of actual sexual abuse. But I know he's in trouble. And he's quite quiet about it. Ali kind of stole it from Stone, but was fundraising. Yes, okay. Yep. Yeah, use them all. Use them. Game over. Game over. I'm gonna use it. Yeah, use all the remedies, damn it. Just put it all in a bowl, Pepper, and stick your fucking hand in that bowl and then just let it like encase it in the remedies. And you'll have like a little cast of remedy on your hand. I think it'll work. I don't know. I'm liking it. I'm liking it. I think Roger Stone started it. I think it is Roger Stone, and Ollie just probably took it. I'm gonna be honest with you. Ollie's not that smart. He didn't know I was punking him, and you have to be pretty dumb to not know that I'm punking you. You can't take Benadryl. Yeah, a lot of people have that. You can use the topical gel. That's interesting. That's good. At least something. I hope it works. So in case you missed it, my darlings, yeah, mix up all the medicine in the basement. That's right, Badger. Mixing up all the medicine. Hey, man, more is better. So last night, very late, I decided I wanted to read a book. And see, the thing is I will not read a book on my own. I'm not proud of that fact. I mean, I will read a book on my own, but I'm not necessarily incentivized to read a book on my own. But I will read a book if I can read it to someone, right? And then all of us will have read that book. And Ollie was busted internally with the Fuentes. Oh, I know. You don't think Fuentes wrote him off? Well, Fuentes is the biggest. I mean, there's so many pieces of shit. Clean the area well with alcohol. Oh, here we go. Pert's saying clean the area well with alcohol to remove the oils that have the urushiol. Then cortisone spray. Thank you, Pert. Yeah, I'm sorry, Pepper. That fucking blows. Injuries, ailments, blowness. Okay, so last night I read the first chapter of the amazing autobiography of, get ready, Cassidy Hutchinson, called Enough. Now, what I didn't realize is that she is spending the first part of the book talking about her childhood. And I don't just mean her childhood, I mean year by year. So last night we got up through, I think, 5th grade. So you need new glasses to finish it. Oh, Stephen King. Oh, easily. I would love to talk to you about Stephen King. I love Stephen King. I love The Outsider. It was such a good book. Oh my God, that was one of the best books. Really hard to read, but really good. Anyway, so I'm reading Cassidy Hutchinson's Enough because I had it in my library, number one, and I couldn't think of a book that I just wanted to like start with, and I knew that some people wanted to read that book and hadn't, and so I thought, well, I'll just start with that. It's probably a pretty quick read. So, that's what I'm going to do. Yeah, which series are you reading easily? Which Stephen King? Is it the new one? Credit to Bob Dylan. Oh, good old Bob Dylan. Oh, you know what else? I was singing some, okay. I am going to be able to I'm doing my research now, but I am going to be able to procure myself some material to make a small recording booth in my home. And I'm so excited about it. And I cannot wait. And I will be recording more music. Crazy Ivan, thanks for coming. Hey, dude. Hey, buddy. Hey, buddy. How you doing? So I will be recording more music, more stories. I want to record stories. I also want to record some stories for kids. And so, no bad language or anything like that in some of the fun books. So I might do something like that too. And I'm not trying to make a big deal about it. And I certainly don't want to be, encourage people for donations for it. I think if you want to make donations when I read books or read other people's material, I would suggest making a donation to like a local domestic violence shelter, or a cause that you care very much about. So that's what I would hope is that you certainly, everyone's so beautifully generous with me, but you don't, if I'm reading someone else's material, I'm delighted for you to make donations of what you might, if you were going to give me something, please give it to someone that you want to give it to. And that'll make me equally as, if not more happy. So anyway, oh, thank you. Thank you. It was very low effort. So I could probably do a better job, but it was, yeah. I mean, this is, I think, a chapter-ish a night is kind of good because then you can just, like, it's a pretty discreet, like, I think last night was like 45 minutes. So I think that's, oh yeah, there was a lot of whispering about logistics. Yeah. Oh dear, I probably did do a lot of like stream of consciousness speaking. Damn it. Okay, the ghost story. Oh, I loved that. Oh my gosh. And I will do a better job with like the technology and stuff, but I would love it. And I invite anyone to come up. Like Jay Rance, thank you so much. And I'm so grateful to you for coming up. You made it so much funner, so much better. So yeah, let's do that again. Let me find out when we'll do that. And I will do a movie night. I'm just in I'm a little bit at the low end of the bell curve, as you can tell. So I'll try and pull my shit together. But yeah. So tonight I'm gonna do a live. Yeah, I know. Assure SM58. Yeah, those are nice. Oh, you know what else I was thinking of doing was a little ASMR too, like little recordings of ASMR stuff. I think I'll probably do that. For the audience that likes to have that. Oh my gosh, thank you for coming up. Anytime. Yeah, so tonight I'll be doing chapter 2 of Enough by Cassidy Hutchinson. I'm sure we're going to go like 6th grade through like 9th grade, maybe. I don't know. It should be fascinating. We'll find out if she gets that new bicycle for Christmas, maybe. Anyway, no, I'm just kidding. And then also, please, 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 last thing I'll say, please make suggestions for other books because I am down to read. So if there is a good nonfiction or fiction book, please send me the name any way you can get the name to me, and I will be happy to tee them up and let's fucking read. Will she ever shoot a turtle? Will she ever? Right? Oh, I'm traumatized by that story. You have to tune in to find out. Will she ever shoot a turtle? And what does it mean? The Girl Who Loved Tom Gordon. Oh, I think I've heard of that. Tales of a 4th grade nothing. Captain Underpants. I'll be reading the stylings of Captain Underpants soon, with a little bit of Tony Robbins on the side. That's right, and we'll end with a little Susie Orman. We should read a Stephen King book. You have book suggestions? Oh, I was thinking about a Rachel Maddow book. I'm not a huge Rachel Maddow fan. Judy Blume. God, are you there? It's me, Margaret. No. I should listen to the beginning. I have time. Yeah, I mean, it's not that great, but it's, yeah, there's the acknowledgments and the preface and the chapter 1. So, but we'll pick up a chapter 2 tonight. So exciting. So that's at 10:15, I think, p.m. Pacific time, 1:15 a.m. So pretty late on the East Coast. But they're recorded, so you can certainly listen to them when you need 45 minutes of like some past. Oh, let's read the Bible. Black as Fuck History by M. Harlett. Ooh, I'm taking a screenshot of that. Jay Rance would like us to pick up the Bible. I think that's a great idea. Oh, Jen is a member for 5 months. That's going to be the best $10 you ever spent, Jen. And we're going to read tons of books in that time. I promise you that. I really do. I have a ton of books I want to read. So we've got plenty of books. Psychologists are turning practices into Christian-based centers. Really? Ugh. The reviews for Prevail said it reads like a page turner and is part of. Well, then I think we need to do it. I might even give up. I might even fucking give up Cassidy for that. You think? Maybe we should like switch gears. Maybe we should switch gears. I know. I'm not a huge Maddow fan. I know. I'm sorry. I always was like, bottom line, get to the point. Because you're losing all these people. Like her media literacy for people, she did not understand her audience. She was playing to like the like the NPR audience. And that's great. Don't get me wrong. I'm all for the PBR, the NPR audience. However, she has good like dramatic delivery and she could, I don't know. I shouldn't. What am I doing? Am I criticizing Rachel Maddow right now? I don't think so. Okay. I love you, Rachel Maddow. I think you're amazing. So maybe maybe we'll switch up gears. Her A block got way too long. Yeah, her A block got way too long. Thank you, Pepper. And it was very good information, but it was always very kind of esoteric, and you had to do a lot of dot connecting, and I just don't think people can connect dots like that, right? Like a PBR. PBR audience is true and on pod. Sea yarns to spin a yarn. That's right. You got to yearns. Yearns to spin a yarn. I yearn to yarn. Faye keeps recommending The Operators. I'm up to chapter 3. Oh, see, I want something a little more like, dare I say, sexy. And I don't mean sexy, but I mean, One Flew Over the Cuckoo Nest. It's such a good book. You're right, Easily. That's an excellent book. Excellent book. Well, we have time. We're going to get into it. Ooh, you know what I might... Oh, no, I'm not going to walk before I can run. Most people don't understand what mental health care was not mandated. That's right. Mental health parity was not the law before ACA. GOP taking away ACA with all the first... Oh, my God. And you know what? As someone who takes advantage of mental health care, I wouldn't be here. Let's read Truth or... You know what? I was going to read The Woman in Me by Britney Spears. So be careful what you fucking wish for, Jay Rance, because, if you want to read another book, you might have to open your own YouTube. But I love them. Some of them are really good. I don't know. I kind of started with this one seriously because I had just literally thrown it in my like whatever Kindle thing, and I'm like, oh, here it is. I guess I'll read it. So yeah. Oh, good night, Val. Good night, darling. Talk to you later. I'm gonna wrap now anyway because we kind of accomplished what we wanted to do. But I will see you tonight. I will see you in a few hours, and well, I won't see you, but I'll see. And I'll be reading, who knows what I'll be reading? It might be Prevail. You never know. The movie version. Yes, it was. It was a very good one. All right. Good night, my loves. Have a great, what is it, Monday? What is today? No, today's Tuesday. That's right. It's Tuesday. No, is it? Yeah. Okay. Have a great Tuesday. I'll see you tomorrow for Midweek Trash Heap with 2020 in Pennsylvania. Whoop, whoop. All right. Bye.